UPI reports nearly 24 Democrats in the U.S. Senate, led by former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, pledged to support a bill Wednesday that would raise the federal minimum wage incrementally to $15 per hour by 2024. Sanders, an independent senator from Vermont, spearheaded a rally at Capitol Hill in support of the legislation, which aims to more than double the federal minimum wage in the next 7 years. The minimum wage has remained at $7.25 per hour for nearly a decade. Sanders said at the rally, "Nobody can live on $7.25. You can't live on $8, and you can't live on $10 an hour. That's why we're saying after 10 years of inaction, the United States Congress is going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Under the proposed legislation, the federal hourly minimum wage would increase to $9.25 this year, $12 in 2020, and $15 4 years later. After 2024, the amount would raise according to median wage growth. Sanders said, "It's not a radical idea to say that in this country, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. We can win this fight if we stick together." 2 years ago, Sanders pushed a similar bill to hike the wage to $15 per hour, but had only 5 co-sponsors. This time, he has 21 co-sponsors, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, former vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine, President Pro Tem Emeritus of the Senate Patrick Leahy, and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. Although he has more sponsorship this time, Sanders still faces an uphill battle getting the bill passed in a GOP-controlled Congress with a GOP-controlled White House. Experts note, however, that the push is likely to put more pressure on Republicans to fight for American workers. Born into a devastating world and raised among the crowd, the Cloudwalker assumes a new identity and begins the unrelenting quest for truth. In this epic journey, he discovers dark secrets about aspects of his previous life that he once trusted. Through the Journal of the Cloudwalker, he shares both the traumatic hardships and the eternal beauties of his experiences. Fueled in the beginning by his unsettling thoughts and emotions, he learns how to find peace with everything he has woken up to. Dear Society by the Cloudwalker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports Chief Justice John Roberts took issue on Wednesday with the Trump administration's stance in an immigration case, saying it could make it too easy for the government to strip people of citizenship for lying about minor infractions. Roberts and other U.S. Supreme Court justices indicated support for a deported ethnic Serbian immigrant over her bid to regain her U.S. citizenship after it was stripped because she falsely stated her husband had not served in the Bosnian Serb army in the 1990s after Yugoslavia's collapse. Roberts seemed particularly concerned that the government was asserting it could revoke citizenship through criminal prosecution for trivial lies or omissions. He noted that in the past he has exceeded the speed limit while driving. Roberts noted if immigrants failed to disclose that on a citizenship application form asking them to list any instances of breaking the law, they could later lose their citizenship. Roberts described the administration's interpretation as inviting prosecutorial abuse because the government could likely find a reason for stripping citizenship from most naturalized citizens. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
This is the Onion Week in Review. Citing his erratic social behavior, nondescript occupation, and habit of accidentally walking off piers while pretending to read newspapers, acquaintances of 37-year-old Jeff Walther suspect he may be a bumbling spy. Residents of Worcester, Massachusetts are kind of hoping a Panera Bread will show up and plow over an obnoxious neighborhood bakery. Locals have said that the soulless restaurant chain, with its simple, impersonal experience, would be just the thing to help run the precious mom-and-pop establishment out of business.
Callahan's is really lovely and all, but it would be such a relief to have some college-aged kid take my order without making eye contact. I just need a cup of coffee. You know, we're not friends.
A follow-up survey of Worcester residents confirmed that 72% of patrons would rather be alerted of an order by a vibrating pager than a kind-faced woman who calls everybody sweetheart. In other news, feds break up a brutal Las Vegas man-fighting ring. A Christmas card ominously makes no mention of the twins. And the Boy Scouts celebrate 100 years of preparing teens for not having cool friends.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. You can join us and bring up whatever is on your mind. The us in studio tonight is Daryl.
And Heather.
And Chris.
And coming up, Chris, you've got an absolutely ridiculous story about some of the odd ways that people could wind up losing their citizenship. Now, this unfortunately does not apply to people that were born in the United States, because I would love to lose my citizenship
I'm sure it
by,
could be arranged.
saying, I weigh 205 pounds.
Wait,
I don't
what?
weigh
You lose your
205
citizenship?
pounds.
Oh, we'll get into
We'll
it.
get into it.
But it's safe to say that your citizenship, regardless of what the government may say, may not be guaranteed.
Well, you want to hear like funny, kind of off topic but on topic subject? I went and got my New Hampshire driver's license today.
Did
And,
you lie about your weight?
No, but I'm not part of the Real ID Act because I didn't have all the documentation there. So apparently,
Well,
as of
you
like,
don't
was
have
it
to.
October
New Hampshire
20th?
is an opt-in state
Yes.
anyway.
No, I know that, but I'm saying that because of that, for those listening that don't know, it means that because New Hampshire, you can either opt in or opt out when you do your license to be part of the Real ID Act, which is like the government, the federal
Getting a
government.
driver's license, you're dealing with the government.
No,
Right,
I
but
mean the
she's right,
federal
federal
government wants states to participate in this. So because I'm not, even though I have my passport, but with my New Hampshire driver's license, I will not be able to enter a federal building or fly domestically because the
That's
TSA.
actually, hold on, that's not entirely.
It's not until October 20th or something of 2020.
They're saying that it's going to be implemented in part in 2018 and fully by 2020. But they've been saying the same thing for the last decade.
Right.
And it keeps getting delayed and getting delayed and getting delayed.
You think they're not going to do it?
I think eventually they'll. I hope there's so much uproar that they just let it go. My question is, though, on the passport, you can't fly domestically with a passport?
You can use a passport.
Yeah, you can.
You're right.
If
so
you don't
I
have-
already have a passport.
Right.
If you don't have a Real ID compliant state issued ID,
right.
then they're saying you need something issued by the feds that is
Right.
compliant, and a passport is one of those
Suffice.
compliant
That's what I
documents.
just wanted to be clear on that if you have a passport, you're good.
Right, and we'll get into all of
Sure.
this later when we discuss the citizenship. Your calls and thoughts. Welcome, 855-450 free. But the reason I mentioned by teasing the citizenship is that government agents will just, do whatever they want when you use words in either a way they don't like. So,
Right.
the instance given in the headline here is lying about your weight. Or let's go to Oregon, where a man told the truth and is now facing a $500 fine.
For perjury? That would just make it even better, but that's okay.
Not for perjury. I'll tell you. The story comes from Motherboard, and it began 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago. The story published 2 days ago. An electronics engineer says he found a flaw in traffic lights. The Oregon Engineering Board fined him for it.
Well, how dare he?
In September 2014, Matt Jarlstrom, an electronics engineer living in Beaverton, Oregon. Chris, that's where you're from, correct?
No, I am not from Beaverton.
It's all,
it's all the
either
same
like
thing.
Eugene, Portland,
Right, and that's
or
all
Beaverton.
anybody knows. I live in the other 80% of the state that is flat and dry. But my brothers live not far from Beaverton, and I've been to Beaverton many times.
So Matt's sent an email to the state's engineering board. The email claimed that yellow traffic lights don't last long enough, which, quote, puts the public at risk. He says, I would like to present the facts for review and comment. This email resulted not with a meeting, but with a threat. The Oregon State Board of Examiners for Engineering and Land Surveying responded with this dystopian message. ORS 672.020, subsection 1, prohibits the practice of engineering in Oregon without registration. At a minimum,
no.
your use of the title electronics engineer and the statement, I am an engineer, create violations. In January of this year, Jarlstrom was officially fined $500 by the state for the crime of practicing engineering without being registered.
How did he practice it? Because he said it?
He said,
The
and
internet, he wrote it.
that they have an excerpt from one of the letters that Jarlstrom sent to the Oregon Engineering Board, so I can tell you exactly what he said. He says, the allegations are that You then continue to use, or rather, this is from the board to Jarlstrom.
Right.
You then continue to use the term engineer in your communications with the board staff, and of more concern are the documents you provided that indicates you may be engaging in unlicensed engineering work in Oregon. As a result of your emails, the board's law enforcement committee directed on February 12th, 2015, that an investigation be opened against you, and separate and distinct from any investigation or potential enforcement action that may be taken against the transportation engineers who were the subject of your initial inquiry.
I love it.
So this all started not in 2014, but in 2013, when his wife was caught running a red light by one of the cameras near his home. Jarlstrom spent a year looking into the timing of yellow lights and the red light camera statistics, and learned that cameras were catching people who were running yellow lights. The original paper that determined yellow light timing, written in 1959, is too simplistic for the modern world, he says, and yet the original calculation in them are still being used. And then they have another excerpt from a letter that Mr. Jarlstrom received. After reviewing the information received, the law enforcement committee determined that the allegations warranted a civil penalty of $500. Your payment was received in full. He paid the fine.
Unreal.
He paid the fine.
Oh, Mr. Jarlstrom, shame on you.
The payment was received in full on November 22nd, 2016, and the board considers this matter settled. At the January 10th, 2017 meeting, the board voted to approve the enclosed final order. This matter is now resolved. The article from Vice continues, and we'll get back into it, but your calls and thoughts welcome. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Jarlstrom told reporters with Vice they only looked at a vehicle traveling safely directly through an intersection. However, the equation they developed is not used, or rather, it's not used for turning lanes.
Stop, because this is just driving me nuts. Okay, first of all, practicing engineer, because he used the word engineer, is just insane. I can tell you from working for decades in IT.
Said, I'm an engineer.
Right.
And he used some science-y stuff where he said, hey, look, your equations are off. Hey, here's some charts.
Forget all that. Forget all of everything.
Therefore, practicing engineering.
The IT world, in the decades that I've worked in it, is filled with engineers. Engineers are sometimes network engineers, which means they work on routers and things like that. It's filled with systems engineers who may be
register with the government,
sort of server side type of stuff. That's one kind of systems engineer. There's software engineers, and in almost, I would say 90% of these cases or greater, the person does not have an engineering. That's not even fair. I'm not even going to venture a guess as to how many people have a particular degree in something.
Well, see, they're not even saying that he didn't have a degree. They're saying
I know that.
You did not register with the state to be able to use the word engineer.
I know that, but I would routinely advertise positions for not network engineer, but systems engineer, security engineer, or it's just one of those things that's used. And Oregon is a huge IT. It's got Intel. It's got all kinds of great big companies. This is insane.
Of course it's insane. That's why we're talking about it, and your thoughts are welcome. 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
Don't do what I did and run out. If it's working, don't quit. Why would you stop? Why undo all the good that's been accomplished?
You've got to feed them right for life.
Dynovite is nutrition.
If I ever took Roy off of Dynovite...
No.
When I get to about 3/4...
When I get down to the bottom of my box of Dynovite, oh no, I've got a couple more scoops. It's time to place my order. Dynovite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
859-428-1000.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynovite for your dog this week.
We'll send you a bottle of Lico Chaps free.
New improved Lico Chaps with omega-6, omega-3, vitamin E,
and now 6 extra direct-fed microbials.
even better for the digestive tract and immune system.
Try Liquid Chaps.
Free this week at Dinovite.com.
Just feed your dog right. Use Dinovite.
Dinovite for life.
859-428-1000.
859-428-1000.
DINOVITE.com.
Are you happy washing your hands with harsh chemicals? Are you happy doing laundry with detergents? Are you happy paying high prices? Find your happiness with Pure Soap. These all-natural, earth-friendly Pure Soaps are the very best you've ever used. Buy in bulk. Get a 12, 36, or 48-month supply, or get items individually and still save big. You're getting soap products twice as good as what you're using now, earth-friendly and natural soaps. Your family deserves the best. Happiness is 5starsoap.com. Why not put your money up the drain for a change? See them at 5starsoap.com or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog. Cal Ben Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils. See their full selection of soaps at 5starsoap.com. That's F-I-V-E starsoap.com. Or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. Your calls and thoughts welcome. 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-3733. In studio, it's Daryl.
And Heather.
And Chris.
And we're talking about red light cameras. Or rather, we're getting there.
That's a very small part of this whole story.
Right.
Is Sarah from Albuquerque calling?
No, she's not.
We should have held this story for Sarah. Come on, Daryl.
like
I thought about it, but there's just there's so much to dive into with this story, to where the guy in Beaverton, Oregon, Mats Jarlstrom, or Chris keeps saying it's Jarlstrom, even though it's got a J. He wound up sending a email to some state board in Oregon saying, hey, I found a flaw in your traffic lights, and here's some charts and graphs to show you that the calculations are wrong. Please take a look. By the way, I'm an engineer. he winds up getting emails saying, you have said you're an engineer, but we don't have you on file in the state as being a certified engineer, so therefore you're practicing engineering without a license.
And to be clear, well, it doesn't really explain in this story exactly what the order of things is, but they didn't mention that he got anything back from the state about what he actually complained about. It seems like, at least going by this story, that the first reaction they had was, we don't have a record of you being a licensed engineer, therefore you're in violation of the law. Not even addressing the camera or the red light issue, the yellow light issue.
And the article from Vice, and I will post the link on the Facebook and the Twitter, they have a lot of documents posted in the article here. So you can actually go through and read the correspondence as it happened instead of just reading the recap of what happened. Again, from Motherboard. We'll get back into this in just a moment, but we do have a Skype call. Carson calling in. Carson, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead with your thoughts.
I just wondering, we should warn the people about God. God is coming.
Okay. Can you give us specifics? When, where?
Is it on Taco Tuesday?
Yes. It doesn't make the whole world like apocalypse are coming. So I want to know, because September is the day of that our Lord to give us. I think it's the 26th. He's coming down from heaven and to earth, and this is in the last Trump.
So it's interesting. Oftentimes, like calls of the apocalypse or the, sort of the reckoning, seem to occur in September, and I'm not sure why that is.
When September ends, it's that Green Day song.
Well, maybe that's it. Maybe it's a Green Day thing.
Yes, but on the 23rd, it does make sense. It's coming in very soon.
Well, thank you for the heads up.
Yeah. So what do you expect us to do with this knowledge now? Is there a way that we can delay this from happening? Do you want us to try speeding this up?
Just do it.
Just mark it on the calendar?
Yes.
Be ready for it.
All right. And if on September 27th the apocalypse has not happened, then what?
Well, be thankful.
Well, I heard God is telling me what the nation sign, they say the beginning of the 12 stars. It means the sun is at her the moon is at her feet, but only 42 months.
Gotcha.
All right, Carson, thank you.
Thank you for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Your calls and thoughts.
God bless.
Welcome. 855-450 free. That's 855-450-3733. Getting back to the article about the
Red light
engineer.
Okay.
Who was
So it's really not
fined.
about red light cameras then. It's more about the engineer.
It's about the use of the phrase engineer.
It's right. So it's about all of these
Impersonating
things.
an engineer.
Right. I love it.
Well,
Was he
I
wearing
don't
like
know
the
if
little
he's
striped hat?
impersonating an engineer,
Well,
because he
they're-
actually
Wait, what's-
is an engineer.
They're alleging that he is.
He's just not registered in Oregon to be an engineer.
Jesus. All right.
So
Apologies to our last caller.
told reporters with Vice they only looked at a vehicle traveling safely directly through an intersection. This is what prompted his thing of, hey, your calculations on yellow lights are completely off. They only looked at cars going straight through an intersection. He says they don't even use the calculation for vehicles that are turning. When you make a turn, you slow down, but that's not accounted for in their solution, so people are getting caught running a red light for making a safe turn. Understandably, he wanted to get feedback on his finding. Also, he reached out to the engineering board, his local sheriff, and 60 Minutes. He was even invited to talk about his research in front of the Institute for Transportation Engineers in Anaheim, California. He also spoke to Alexei Maradudin, the last surviving author of the 1959 paper that he cited. Jarlstrom said, "He wants me to continue this. It's amazing that I have his support." To be clear, he's doing all of this work in his free time for free and does not have control over any of the red lights in Oregon or anywhere else in the world. In 2014, he sued the city of Beaverton over the length of its yellow light length, but that case was quickly thrown out because a judge said he lacks standing to challenge it because, quote, for purposes of standing, plaintiff must allege that the short yellow light intervals created a credible threat of imminent injury to him. He says, "I'm not practicing engineering. I'm just using basic math and physics, Newtonian laws of motion to make calculations and talk about what I found."
I just hear that in Ronald Reagan's voice. Well, there you go again.
And
it
yet,
just drives me nuts. All right.
The engineering board in Oregon said he should not be free to publish or present his ideas. And Jarlstrom and the Institute for Justice sued the engineering board in federal court for violating his First Amendment rights. So not only are they saying you owe us $500 for writing in an email that you're an engineer and we don't have any documents saying you're an engineer, they're saying that he now should not be allowed to even talk about his research because they don't recognize
like covering
him
their
as
butt
an
though,
engineer.
because now everybody that's ever gotten a ticket making that turn is almost like not justified in doing so.
You are looking for logic in the state. This may not be possible.
Let's get back to this and your calls and thoughts. Welcome, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
Being self-reliant is about being prepared and to do what you need to have your own source of renewable energy. Portable Solar LLC offers the most powerful EMP-hardened solar system on the market that is transportable from place to place, and the best part, it's very affordable. Contact them at portablesolarllc.com or call for details at 972-575-8875. Soul Arc EMP-hardened solar generator energy insurance for your family or business. Call Portable Solar LLC today or go to portablesolarllc.com to check out their patent-pending technology.
The answer to being in control of your own healthcare is freedom from insurance. Become part of a group of self-pay patients that come together to share in each other's medical expenses. Individual share amounts begin at $107 a month and $347 for families. Choose from 3 health-sharing programs. Holistic treatments may be eligible for sharing. See guidelines. Discount programs available for dental, vision, and pharmacy. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgoristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agorist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers, and some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agorist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any tomfoolery. So go with AgoristHosting.com. And if you want to get your foot in the door with decentralized marketplaces, Agorist Hosting is now offering Open Bazaar hosting. Go to AgoristHosting.com. Click on the button that says Get Hosted. Agorist Hosting. That's AGORIST hosting.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
LRN.FM is proud to announce our official listening apps for Android and iOS devices. Now you can easily tune into our streams anywhere, anytime on your smartphone or tablet. Just visit apps.lrn.fm or search for LRN.FM in the Android or Apple app stores. Please download, rate us 5 stars, then share the link on your social media and let your friends and family know how you're listening to LRN.FM. Download it now, free at apps.lrn.fm.
So, I heard somebody say that 50 is the new 25. I mean, I can live with that, but isn't age just a number? I mean, if you feel good and look good, who cares about numbers anyway? I take care of myself, and, well, I use Nature's Youth RSF from, you guessed it, Nature's Youth. Think of the money you spend on things that make you feel better for just a little bit, and then think of spending the same amount or less on something that can make you look and feel better for a lifetime. How about the facts? The ingredients in Nature's Youth RSF work naturally, providing just the right environment to support healthy HGH levels while maintaining homeostasis. RSF is non-toxic, and it doesn't contain any synthetic hormones, which can weaken your endocrine system. Simply add RSF to your sensible diet and exercise plan. You can, and will, thank me later. Forget about that aging number I mentioned and focus on the anti-aging number. 800-333-6923. That's 800-333-6923 and online at naturesyouth.com. Nature's Youth. Live your life.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We'll get back into the story about the Oregon man fined for using the word engineer in an email. But first, I want to make sure that I tell you about a way that you can actually wind up saving money on purchases that you were going to make anyway.
Do I have to be an engineer?
You do not have to be an engineer.
Oh, that's cool.
But you can be if you want to. You can call yourself an engineer. You can
not in the state of Oregon.
Rework the job title of almost anything you do to use the word engineer in there somewhere.
But not in the state of Oregon.
But
they'll fine you.
They very well might fine you for doing so in Oregon. But
right. So back to how do I save money?
If you go to saveatpurse.com, you can save 5% instantly on things that you want to buy from Amazon. You can, if you want to wait a couple of hours or a couple of days, you can save 10, 15, 25% or more, again, on things you were going to buy anyway. Or maybe it's something that you're only buying because you get a discount.
Mm-hmm.
We're not judging, do whatever you want. But the way you wind up saving is you have to use Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency.
I like to think of it as you get to use Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin, there's not a million places out there you can use it, like credit cards.
Correct. Saveatpurse.com. So what you do is if you're not doing the 5% instant buy, you need to have an Amazon account. You put things into an Amazon wish list. You then import the wish list into your account there at saveatpurse.com. And then you select what discount you want, and then you fund the account with Bitcoin. Somebody then winds up making the purchase. You receive the items. I actually had some health food come in earlier today. Got 3 pounds of bee pollen granules, and those will be going in my smoothies. I saved, I believe it was 25%. And so the guy sent me an email, hey, the item was delivered. I said, all right, I'll head down to my mailbox shortly. Went down, picked up the items, came back and clicked items received. He got the Bitcoin, I got the product. Everybody wound up being happy because we used saveatpurse.com. Back to the article from Motherboard. And now this is just, like adding completely new layers here. The guy, Matt Jarlstrom, back in 2014, sent an email to some, people that make decisions in Oregon on red lights and lengths of yellow light saying, hey, I'm an engineer. Your calculations are flawed. And they responded basically of, so you say you're an engineer, and we checked our records, and we don't have any record of you being an engineer, so therefore you're practicing engineering without a license. Give us $500.
You know what this reminds me of, though? It reminds me of that bill that was just in the New Hampshire House about the hair braiding.
Right.
Where you have to have a license, right? Like, same exact thing, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
just if you replace every time they say engineer with hair braider, it was the exact same thing. Like, you're not a licensed hair braider, so you have no reason to say my braids aren't done right, so we're going to fine you $500 for telling us how to braid hair.
Right.
And the ridiculous thing with the hair braiding is that the cosmetology schools and the barber schools don't teach hair braiding.
Right.
But the state was saying you had to have one of those two to be able to braid hair.
You had to be licensed to braid hair.
What is silly about this entire freaking conversation, which includes hair braiding and red lights and
engineers. There's a government saying you need a license.
No, it's exactly. It's about occupational licensing, and this should strike everybody who's listening when the state can come down and say you can't braid hair and without us giving you permission, and that's a valid way to make a living. It's saying before you can earn money doing something you want to do, something you like to do, something you may be good at, we have to give you permission. And sometimes it's not, well, we have to give you permission and you have to pay us a lot of money, and we're going to require you to go to all this training, and we are going to make the cost of entry into this field so ridiculously high that you will have no choice but to what? Stay on welfare.
What people don't understand, too, is that all the training that goes into this stuff is done so by the professionals in the industry anyway. It has nothing to do with government. So the idea that government mandating licenses somehow makes us safer, it doesn't at all.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It limits the amount of people that can actually do it.
Right. And in many of these fields, you'll find that the biggest proponents of occupational licensing are the trade organizations made up of people who already have a job and may already possess a monopoly in a particular area.
And person that runs the cosmetology school in the state.
Right. For example, when we're talking about that. So, all this stuff, you look at, all these different cities that have banned Uber and sometimes countries, and who's the biggest opponent? It's the taxi cab companies, taxi cab unions.
Right, and part of this is some people that are, more liberty-oriented would call it slave-on-slave violence. I heard another example to where it's crab bucket syndrome, to where, and it sounds really weird.
I'm listening.
It sounds really
listening.
weird.
You got my attention.
But if you have a crab, just one, in a bucket,
right,
the crab will climb out of the bucket, no problem. If you have a bunch of crabs in a bucket and one of the crabs tries to leave, all of the other crabs pull the one that's trying to leave back into the bucket.
Right. Or they're trying to climb over him to get back out themselves. It's insane.
No, they will drag him back into the bucket.
Interesting.
And the cycle, it might be another crab that's like, you're not getting out, I'm getting out. But the cycle just continues. So
interesting.
I think crab bucket syndrome is a really good name.
It's a good one.
And that's what you have here, to where you've got one group of people, taxi driver, well, we're being regulated, and you do something that looks kind of like what we do, so therefore you should be regulated too.
Well, and the other thing, kids, is sometimes we can't always come up with an example of crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is one of those phrases that people toss out all the time, like, what's wrong with this country is money and politics and crony capitalism. Well, crony capitalism, excuse me. Crony capitalism is when a group of people get together, lobby the government for things that are in their favor, and in this case, we're talking about occupational licensing.
Right. So if you could, very easily keep out competition.
Right. You make all the money and they don't make anything, and money flows to government in the form of campaign donations and flat out bribes and sweet deals and all this stuff. And this is what you get. People should have it. It is their inalienable right, their natural right to be able to earn a living.
Well, what's
to
the
benefit from the fruits of your own
you
labor.
Gotta look at the negative consequences of some of this stuff, right? Like just with doctors, there's only so many licenses that they even give out. So it's not even an issue of just you need to get a license. Sometimes it's an issue of there's only so many that they allowed to be given out.
And then if you want to,
so
if you want to create a new hospital,
when you limit the number of doctors that can be here, that's going to drive up prices, which is going to cut people off from necessary, procedures and surgeries, and it's eventually going to cost lives.
And if there's somebody that is a licensed doctor and says, I want to build a hospital to serve this underserved area, they have to get what's called a certificate of need, to where all of the other hospitals get to vote and decide, do we really need another hospital?
Do we need some more competition? I say no. It's insanity, and in the case of medicine, it's a perfect example, too, because you have the American Medical Association, which people still look at with reverence and go, oh, what wonderful work they do.
It's a
no,
private
they don't.
entity.
It's a private entity, number one. Number two, it is the definition of crony capitalism. They not only regulate the number of doctors, they send millions and millions of dollars to Washington to get things the way they want.
Politicians to not let people wind up being recognized as doctors that don't go through the AMA.
And keep more medical schools from opening.
855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Your calls and thoughts welcome. This is Free Talk Live.
Today, how to incorporate your business in just 10 minutes so you won't lose everything if you get sued. Step 1, stop putting it off. If you're not incorporated and someone sues your business tomorrow, it's not just your business at risk. You can lose everything: your home, your car, even your life savings. Step 2, call the following number for a free 10-minute incorporation guide from Incorporate.com. 1-800-940-9829. They don't provide legal or financial advice. They just make incorporating quick and easy. So you can incorporate or form an LLC in just 10 minutes. That number again is 1-800-940-9829. Step 3, congratulate yourself. By taking just 10 minutes to incorporate your business or form an LLC, you protected your home, your car, and your life savings. And that is how you incorporate your business in just 10 minutes. But hurry while they're still giving away these 10-minute incorporation guides for free. Call 1-800-940-9829. That's 1-800-940-9829.
Think about this. Your community's aging water infrastructure systems are very likely to be contaminated with heavy metals like lead, disinfection chemicals like ammonia, chlorine and chloramines, and pharmaceuticals like statins, pain meds, and antidepressants. And no, water treatment plants are not equipped to filter these pharmaceutical toxins out. Protect your family's water supply with the trusted Big Berkey water filter. New NSF EPA certified lab tests show Big Berkey water filters remove chloramines, pharmaceuticals, BPA, pesticides, bacteria, and viruses, all forms of fluoride, and much more. Big Berkey water filters are the original and most trusted on the market, the gold standard in water purification, and our filters last for years at less than 2 cents per gallon. Big Berkey, the one powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get your Big Berkey today. Call 1-877-99-BERKEY or click BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
Scientology minister Frank D. Linehan was arrested this morning on 471 charges of molesting Thetans. The popular 56-year-old minister was reportedly taken into custody after an investigation revealed this week that he sexually abused dozens of Thetans in the past year, with many of the ancient alien spirits being as young as 65 million years old.
Church members left these Thetans alone with someone they trusted, and Mr. Linehan clearly violated that trust.
According to police reports, the abuse continued as recently as last week when Linehan forced a 70-million-year-old alien spirit to perform oral sex during a level OT2 solo auditing session. Since the allegations against Linehan surfaced, more and more church members have come forward about Thetan abuse. Despite the church's efforts to recover from the incident, the scandal may alienate a whole generation of Scientologists.
I don't see how they can expect anyone to continue moving up the bridge to total freedom and achieve clear after this.
This is the Onion News Network.
You may already know about the Free Talk Live audio-on-demand phone line at 641-793-9660. Did you know that not only can you listen to Free Talk Live via your phone, you can also leave a message and have it delivered to Free Talk Live's hosts? To leave us your thoughts, just dial 641-793-9660. That's 641-793-9660. Press 2 for Free Talk Live, and then hit 0 to leave your message.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up in any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Started the show talking about the Oregon man, Matt Jarlstrom, who wind up getting fined $500 for the dastardly crime of writing in an email to some state agents, "I'm an engineer." And it wasn't just that. The engineering board in Oregon said that Mr. Jarlstrom should not be able to publish or present his ideas. So he called up the Institute for Justice, and they sued the engineering board in federal court earlier this week for violating his First Amendment rights. Sam Gedge, an attorney for the Institute for Justice, said Matz has a clear First Amendment right to talk about anything from taxes to traffic lights. It's an instance of a licensing board trying to suppress speech. Jarlstrom, for his part, said he'd never expected anything like this to happen when he moved to the United States from Sweden 20 years ago. Quote, "When I first got the letter, it was this feeling of being violated and shocked that someone can be treated like this in the USA for sharing ideas. I've done this freely, self-funded, as a civil service. I want to show these ideas to the public, and I'm getting suppressed. It's been a civil rights violation since day one." And again, the post from Motherboard that I will be posting the link to on the Facebook and the Twitter does include the correspondence that Jarlstrom has had with the various government boards there in Oregon. Let's go to the phones. We've got Andrew calling in from Wichita, Kansas. Andrew, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yes, I would like a change of subject of the war with North Korea.
Yeah, go ahead.
Keep hearing about on the news.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, the one of my complaints of the United States war of terror on North Korea is that the GDP per capita of North Korea is $583. That's what a person in North Korea makes per year. And we're going to drop bombs on those unfortunate people.
I'm not going to be dropping any bombs, and hopefully, Andrew, you're not going to be doing it either.
Of course. Yes, of course. Our United States government will be, and their gross domestic product is $12.3 billion. I have an idea that if we would take $12.3 billion, which would be more cheaper than, or would cost less than our war with them, and dropped goods and services to them, we would actually be greeted as liberators, just like we were in Iraq. JK, just JK.
Right. Yeah, but $12 billion worth of food dropped to starving North Korea.
Yeah, and that's not going to benefit like companies like Boeing and stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Boeing could, build the airplane that drops the food. They could wind up, building a little crate to hold the food.
This food brought to you by Boeing.
Yeah, but we all know it's just it's people pulling strings.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what the logical thing is. It's who's pulling the strings and where do they want the money to go.
I also don't really think that the U.S. government is going to start dropping bombs on North Korea.
I mean,
just because it's been one of those sort of trump cards.
I don't know.
Will,
he just dropped that Moab, what they call it, mother of all bombs or whatever,
in Afghanistan on a series of tunnels that the U.S. government funded back in the 1980s.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, caller. Missed that.
Was that $50 million that we dropped on them in a form of a bomb?
It was like $50 million that we spent just doing the drone strikes in Syria on that airbase. That's not even including that bomb in Afghanistan.
I did see a price tag on that thing. It seems to me like it was somewhere around $20 million, but you're not counting in all the
That's
time.
money that could have gone to making America great again.
It did make America great again in Washington's eyes because we dropped a bomb on some tunnels. That made America great again.
Were built with U.S. funds in the 1980s.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's the little tidbit that keeps getting left out of this is, hey, guys, we destroyed some tunnels that we built 30 years ago. Aren't you glad we were here with that mother of all bombs to destroy those tunnels that we built?
Didn't it kill 36 people? Couldn't we have took that money and dropped...
Yeah. I know.
Well, I don't think not dropping the bomb would have saved any money because they had already built the bomb.
Well, no, there was also the cost of transporting said bomb, the fuel to drop it and stuff like that. I remember seeing the number, but somebody did the math, and I think this is when they said they killed 37 people. Maybe I'm thinking of the Syrian bombing instead. One of them, it was $444,000 per dead enemy. That was the price tag.
That's just perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've actually pulled up. Go ahead, Andrew.
I would prefer that we drop supplies to them, food and tools, and we will actually be greeted as liberators.
It's good.
I don't
drop
know
some
if-
stuff in Venezuela. They
I don't
need it more than
understand
anyone.
how bombs heal anything.
I don't know if dropping food and supplies in North Korea would actually cause the North Koreans to greet us as liberators, just because the Kim family for so long has said that, the United States is, this great evil entity. So the people could be convinced this food came from the United States. It's poisoned. They're trying to kill us all. And then they probably would not eat any of the food.
I'm kind of curious.
I think it. Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm kind of curious to know what the drug laws are over there in North Korea. Because you guys
I don't
said
know,
you
and I don't know
dropping
if Andrew
food made me
knows
think
either.
of dropping Cheetos and munchies and stuff like that. 'Cause
I suspect it's tyrannical. And
I don't know. You'd be surprised. There's some countries
drop
like that.
Tools. Let's drop things that they can use. Let's drop hammers. Let's drop bulldozers. Let's drop whatever they.
Or how about let's just lift the embargo and allow
Them to
something
trade?
akin to free market. Not that the North Koreans would welcome a free trade system if we lifted the embargo. Andrew, thank you for the call.
Well, the North Koreans may very well welcome a free trade and open trade. The problem is government. Their government certainly has no interest in doing that.
Right, and that's what I what I meant there.
But I think it's an important distinction. Oftentimes people feel one way. People see the benefits of free markets and see the benefits of free trade. But government, because they're being pushed in one direction or another by powerful corporations or powerful industries, will push trade the other direction. We're definitely seeing that now.
So Business Insider, since there was a question about the cost of that Moab, the mother of all bombs, officially called the Massive Ordnance Air Blast Bomb, Business Insider says it does not cost $314 million or even $16 million, but $170,000, according to the U.S. Air Force.
So do you guys understand how a fuel air bomb works? Because this, I think it's kind of interesting, and it demonstrates what humans are capable of coming up with. A fuel air bomb, you can almost think of it as a giant aerosol can.
Okay.
So you fill it up with liquid, and it's going to be something petroleum-based like gasoline. Ow. Heather keeps kicking me.
God, no, I do not.
So it's like an aerosol can. It comes down, and then it starts to spray a very fine mist of whatever explosive liquid it has into it. So it creates this huge ball. Say it's 200 yards in diameter of nothing but like misted gasoline vapor, and then it ignites it. So that is why they are so devastating, and that's why people say it looked like a nuke went off, because it is the same idea. It's an airburst, just like most nuclear weapons have been. Certainly when they've been used in warfare.
It blows up before it hits the ground.
Right. It doesn't like go in tunnel. It blows. It explodes above the ground, and it creates a massive pressure wave, and that's what does the damage.
Right, and that's one of the things that I'd heard that basically said it made no sense to use this targeting a system of tunnels because it explodes above the ground and doesn't really penetrate the ground.
If the tunnels were shallow, I mean, that much pressure on top of them, it would collapse them all over the place. I kind of get that. If you were talking about something really, really deep underground, then the government would want to use a bunker buster, something that penetrates very deeply into the ground and then explodes.
And Business Insider says the $170,000 figure makes sense considering that a general purpose 1,000-pound bomb cost about $12,000. Your calls and thoughts welcome. 855-450 free. That's 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
You've said it yourself. We need a healthcare system that focuses on health, not sickness. Health insurance pays for treating sickness but gives you nothing for being healthy. There's a free market healthcare company that gives you freedom from health insurance. They give you a proactive health assessment daily, no charge 24-hour access to doctors. Check them out right now at healthexcellenceselect.com. Any kind of doctor, traditional, integrative, chiropractic, acupuncture, and massage. You'll love the service and price. healthexcellenceselect.com. healthexcellenceselect.com.
Bitcoin.com is the most unique online destination in the Bitcoin universe. Buying Bitcoin? Do it here. Want to speak your mind to other Bitcoin users? Our forum is always open and censorship free at forum.bitcoin.com. There's no bigger Bitcoin believers than the Bitcoin.com team. That's why this site is a one-stop shop for everything you need to get into Bitcoin life. You can also play games at games.bitcoin.com. Learn more at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
For Bitcoin to be ubiquitous, people need to use it. For people to use it, they must have it. How can we get Bitcoin into more hands? Tipping. What if you could include a bonus Bitcoin tip along with your regular tip to a server? What if that Bitcoin tip returned to you if unclaimed after 30 days? An attractive business card Bitcoin tip that's easily claimed, gives instructions on wallets and spending, and returns to the tipper if unused. Tip.freetalklive.com. Tip.freetalklive.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and one with just the Edgington Post. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene, the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, April 27th, 2017. Silver is trading at $17.41 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,264 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 1.8 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,304. Antiwar.com reports Turkey is accusing the Syrian government of having fired mortar shells against one of their military bases in the southeastern Hatay province, an attack which coincided with shelling from Kurdish forces against the same part of Turkey. Syria has not confirmed involvement in the strike, but the statement from Turkey's military claimed that the shelling originated from territory that they believe to have been under control of the Syrian military forces. It's not clear why the Syrian military would attack a Turkish border post far from any territory the government still controls, but Turkey would clearly be quite eager to make such claims, as it provides a justification for retaliatory strikes and potentially raids to seize more territory from their rebel allies. Turkey's military also claimed to have responded in kind to the Syrian military, but did not detail exactly what they attacked, and there has yet to be any word out of Syria of anything being hit other than Kurdish territory. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports nearly 24 Democrats in the U.S. Senate, led by former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, pledged to support a bill Wednesday that would raise the federal minimum wage incrementally to $15 per hour by 2024. Sanders, an independent senator from Vermont, spearheaded a rally at Capitol Hill in support of the legislation, which aims to more than double the federal minimum wage in the next 7 years. The minimum wage has remained at $7.25 per hour for nearly a decade. Sanders said at the rally, "Nobody can live on $7.25. You can't live on $8, and you can't live on $10 an hour. That's why we're saying after 10 years of inaction, the United States Congress is going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Under the proposed legislation, the federal hourly minimum wage would increase to $9.25 this year, $12 in 2020, and $15 4 years later. After 2024, the amount would raise according to median wage growth. Sanders said, "It's not a radical idea to say that in this country, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. We can win this fight if we stick together." 2 years ago, Sanders pushed a similar bill to hike the wage to $15 per hour, but had only 5 co-sponsors. This time, he has 21 co-sponsors, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, former Vice Presidential candidate Tim Kaine, President Pro Tem Emeritus of the Senate Patrick Leahy, and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. Although he has more sponsorship this time, Sanders still faces an uphill battle getting the bill passed in a GOP-controlled Congress with a GOP-controlled White House. Experts note, however, that the push is likely to put more pressure on Republicans to fight for American workers. Born into a devastating world and raised among the crowd, the Cloudwalker assumes a new identity and begins the unrelenting quest for truth. In this epic journey, he discovers dark secrets about aspects of his previous life that he once trusted. Through the Journal of the Cloudwalker, he shares both the traumatic hardships and the eternal beauties of his experiences. Fueled in the beginning by his unsettling thoughts and emotions, he learns how to find peace with everything he has woken up to. Dear Society by the Cloudwalker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports Chief Justice John Roberts took issue on Wednesday with the Trump administration's stance in an immigration case, saying it could make it too easy for the government to strip people of citizenship for lying about minor infractions. Roberts and other U.S. Supreme Court justices indicated support for a deported ethnic Serbian immigrant over her bid to regain her U.S. citizenship after it was stripped because she falsely stated her husband had not served in the Bosnian Serb army in the 1990s after Yugoslavia's collapse. Roberts seemed particularly concerned that the government was asserting it could revoke citizenship through criminal prosecution for trivial lies or omissions. He noted that in the past he has exceeded the speed limit while driving. Roberts noted if immigrants failed to disclose that on a citizenship application form asking them to list any instances of breaking the law, they could later lose their citizenship. Roberts described the administration's interpretation as inviting prosecutorial abuse because the government could likely find a reason for stripping citizenship from most naturalized citizens. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Thomas the Tank Engine says he's a little uneasy with his broad autistic following, and a couple has a nest egg of debt to make sure they've got some money to owe down the road. This is the Onion Week in Review. Local video editor James Korf told reporters Wednesday that despite having said goodbye over 10 minutes ago, his friend, Michael Woodward, still remained active on GChat and had shown no signs of leaving.
If it were yellow, it would mean that he hasn't been on the computer for a little while, or if it was red, it would mean he doesn't want to talk, but it's green. I can tell. I can see it right there.
Korf later said that he felt briefly relieved when Woodward's chat logo turned orange, but was once again dejected when it became green within seconds. And in this week's op-ed pages, a high school guidance counselor laments the fact that no one in his entire damn school has been molested. In other news, a bedbug feels bad for an area man, but a bug's gotta eat. A development exec wants to see what, where, and how that would look, live, and play out. And a man at the gym is just watching TV. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. In studio, it's Daryl.
And Heather.
And Chris.
And we teased at the beginning of the show that you could possibly, maybe, under certain circumstances, have your citizenship revoked if you do something as simple as lie about your weight. Chris, you've got the story. It's this particular version is from Reason.
Correct, Reason.com, and the title of it is, Can You Lose Your Citizenship by Lying About Your Weight?
I hope so.
The federal government says yes, but the Supreme Court seems skeptical. Wait, aren't they one and the same? I'm not going to get picky with that. If you want to become a citizen of the United States, you have to answer a lot of questions.
And I think what they mean by federal government is the executive branch.
I know, as if. Sorry, if you're a branch of the federal government, you are part of the federal government.
Right, but it would be akin to saying, well, one state rep said this, so every state rep believes that because you're a state rep, so therefore you're a member, so therefore you agree. No, people in different branches of the government can disagree on things.
I mean, that's true. You know.
Okay, you two.
Yeah.
Just go easy on me, all right?
People,
that is not one of the
human
concerts I've been to.
You know, government is not a person. It's just a group of people.
It is. If you want to become a citizen of the United States, you have to answer a lot of questions, some of which are very broad and many of which seek potentially embarrassing information. In a case the Supreme Court heard yesterday, the U.S. government takes the position that a false answer to any of those questions, no matter how trivial or irrelevant the subject, is enough to strip you of your citizenship years after you were naturalized. That argument encountered a lot of resistance from the court and prompted a startling confession from Chief Justice John Roberts. Some time ago, Roberts told Assistant to the Solicitor General Robert Parker, outside the statute of limitations, I drove 60 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. I was not arrested, unquote. Had Roberts done that as a green card holder seeking citizenship, he would have been obligated to check the yes box next to question 22 in part 12 of his application for naturalization. Quote, have you ever committed, assisted in committing, or attempted to commit a crime or offense for which you were not arrested, unquote. According to the government,
I think basically everybody would have to answer yes to that because there are so many laws.
Right.
And it's speculated that everybody commits 3 felonies. Not just you violate 3 things, but commit 3 felonies per day.
Google that because it's really interesting.
Would have to answer yes to this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just making a point. How many can I break today?
Exactly. According to the government, checking the no box could have life-altering consequences. You say that if I answer the question no, Robert said, 20 years after I was naturalized as a citizen, you can knock on my door and say, guess what? You're not an American citizen after all. Parker confirmed that was indeed what he was saying. Oh, come on, the Chief Justice replied. At the center of the case, Maslernajak versus United States is the meaning of 18 U.S.C. 1425, which makes it a felony to procure citizenship, quote, contrary to the law, unquote.
So basically, if you answer no to the question, have you ever committed or assisted in committing or attempted to commit a criminal offense and were not arrested, and they've, wind up, you sold lemonade without a permit.
Right.
You wrote an email to the Oregon board and said, I'm an engineer. You braided someone's hair.
Right.
You sold your next door neighbor a hamburger.
Exactly. All these things. And more to the point, and I think what the real thing is, the real dispute here is, and why it becomes about lying about your weight is, okay, does that then mean you're implying that answering any question the federal government asks you during the process of naturalization to become a U.S. citizen, if you answer any of those falsely, then you have violated the law according to parts of our government.
That's why I get so nervous doing my taxes because all the dang questions,
Right. There's a thing called unsworn falsifications.
Yeah.
That Ian Freeman the main host of this radio program, was not just charged with, but convicted of, because he was going through a legal name change and needed to renew his driver's license, or actually get an initial New Hampshire driver's license, because he was found guilty of having been a resident without fulfilling some obligations, but it wasn't a criminal conviction. They went through the administrative. So he goes down to the DMV with papers and says, my name's Ian Freeman. Here's the paper from the court that says my name's Ian Freeman. And they said, well, your driver's license says something else, so therefore we need this amended document and this document. And he says, I don't have any of those. Well, you don't get a piece of plastic. So he went home, went back the next day and said, my name's Ian. Here's my driver's license. And here's this. And give me a thing. And so then they came back and said, well, you filed papers consecutive days with the DMV under different names. One of those was a lie. You have committed unsworn falsifications.
Yeah.
We'll get back into this. We've got Sarah on the line calling in from New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to mention, Michael Bloomberg. Now he's going to spend altogether $1.3 million to help pass the sugar tax in Santa Fe. So I thought it was a big deal. Yesterday he was donating $400,000. Now today it's altogether $1.3 million.
For what again? I didn't catch that, Sarah.
Sugar tax.
Oh, for a sugar tax.
One of the three pet projects that Sarah likes to call in to talk about, trying to increase taxes on sugar, trying to increase the number of red lights with cameras, and trying to make sure that pedestrians don't jump in front of cars.
I understand. So this is the same Michael Bloomberg whose plans were horribly shot down in New York City when he tried to do it up there. Correct?
Right. So then
that guy?
I'm very surprised that he's involved with the Santa Fe election, because the election is going on right now. The early voting has started today, tomorrow, and the election date is May 3rd.
Right.
May 2nd.
So who?
3 days of voting.
Do you know what he's in town promoting, and or which candidate, and whether a Republican or a Democrat holds that seat now? I don't know that much about it.
The money is for the commercials to sway the voters. This is going to be
only on the tax, not on a candidate. So he's spending money on an issue, not a candidate.
Okay, I hear you. But is there also somebody running who would switch a seat from Democrat to Republican out there right now? Call me Mr. Skeptical, but when I see lots of money fly into congressional districts, I tend to think...
In this case, it would be a mayoral race.
Okay.
Where they're also voting on, do you want to impose a tax on sugary beverages?
Jesus.
Okay. So I was told that the $1 million is just for the commercials to sway the voters to vote for the sugar tax.
If it's such a great idea, why do you need all that money to sway it?
Well, the opposing side, the people that the soda pop and the insulin companies, I've been hearing tons of their commercials.
The sugar barons.
You think the insulin companies are gunning for they don't want the soda tax?
So really, are like,
because they want people to get
diabetes and become lifelong
Sarah's
cause?
claim is that the insulin producing companies want everybody in the world to have diabetes so they can sell them the drugs.
Not a bad business plan.
They could have employees. You know what I mean? So the needle makers could keep making needles, so that they would have a job of people poking themselves with the insulin injection every day.
Well, isn't that why governments want more taxes, so that they still have jobs?
Well, the thing about it is there's an interest group. They're not going to come out and say that we're the ones that are dumping money in the commercial. They're kind of, they're going to be hidden. Obviously,
I mean, at least insulin is kind of a supply and demand thing, that's kind of based on individual choices, whereas government, we don't have the choice,
Yeah,
I'd
true.
rather, have the soda than the tax.
Some people are born with genetic diabetes. Sarah, thank you for the call. This is Free Talk Live, 855-450-3733.
Do you need a website for your blog or new business, it can be pretty intimidating on your own, and that's why Free Talk Live has partnered with HostGator, one of the top hosting companies. HostGator offers a simple one-click, easy installation for WordPress, 24/7 over the phone or live chat tech support, and a very intuitive, user-friendly control panel that puts the power of creation back into your hands. Go to HostGator.com/FTL and you'll get 50% off of their regular hosting prices. 50% off. HostGator.com/FTL. Free Talk Live has partnered with Amazon, the largest internet retailer. Imagine a department store category, and Amazon has it. Books, electronics, office products, furniture, jewelry, automotive, toys, clothing, sporting goods, and dozens of other categories. Now you can shop and support Free Talk Live by entering Amazon through our website. Go to shop.freetalklive.com, and Amazon will send us a portion of your purchase. You're going to do the shopping anyway, so remember to enter through our site at shop.freetalklive.com. That's shop.freetalklive.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-765-9681 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-765-9681. Again, that's 800-765-9681.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippie! Jesus. On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you got to keep you and your gat intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadadi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phones, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.freetalklive.com. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit Free Talk Live when you enter Amazon via shop.freetalklive.com.
We've all heard about blockchain assets like Dogecoin, Ether, and Ripple. Bitcoin isn't the only player in the blockchain game any longer. And for those of us wondering how to get our hands on these digital assets, finally, there's a solution. Shapeshift.io allows you to buy and sell between your digital assets and Bitcoin instantly between your own digital wallets. I've used it with ease. Shapeshift.io. There's no account or email address needed. You send them the crypto you want to sell. They send back the crypto you want to buy. It's that easy. Shapeshift.io.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, 855 450 free. That's 855 450 3733. In studio, it's Daryl.
And Heather.
And Chris.
And Chris is telling us about ways that you might be able to get rid of your U.S. citizenship. Simply lie on some government forms. Now,
wait, I want to know
this
where
might
that building was, Chris, that you just showed me.
Arkansas.
He just showed me a picture of some government building that, I kid you not, has written on it in lettering, obedience to the law is liberty.
Yeah, well, that's what government officials believe.
That's like saying decaf coffee is real coffee.
I think it would make more sense if it read government's obedience to the law is liberty. If government
disobedience to stupid, unjust laws.
That's just
see, now that's where it goes. I prefer to like try to put things back in constitutional terms because most people are familiar with that. But if government actually followed the law, if government wasn't the number one organized crime syndicate in the United States, which it is, it violates the Constitution every day in a million different ways. If it wasn't, then we would experience more liberty.
Right. So, this is why there's the joke. What's the difference between the mafia and the government? The mafia has a code of ethics that they actually follow.
Right.
Well, this is what I don't understand, right? And I was thinking about this the other day, like in terms of like, you used to have all the black market cartels and stuff that were pushing drugs, and a lot of them have become a part of the government in some states. Is that why you see states like Massachusetts and, Colorado and stuff that have, relatively bigger, more liberal blue states with bigger governments are the ones freeing essentially like prohibition and things like marijuana first? Because it strikes me as odd that New Hampshire, being the live free or die state, has such strict, just when I first testified on a marijuana bill here in the committee or whatever, it was shocking to see how they handled me mentioning legalizing it all together. It was like it shocked them. And I'm like, coming from Massachusetts, where it was like you could say that to the legislature and, it's normal to them. We just legalized it. And
well, the weird thing is some of these state reps have been hearing this year after year after year, and they're still shocked by it, which is the most shocking thing.
Really?
So here's my part of my theory on that. It's not my theory. A lot of people believe this too, but New Hampshire has one of the largest legislatures in the world.
Yes.
And
that's not a theory, that's a fact.
No, that's a fact. The other fact is that we pay our legislators $100 a year plus some mileage.
Yes.
So what you tend to get a large number of people that are already retired, and now they have the time and the wherewithal to become a state representative. So we do see a lot of older people in there.
That there's a lot of older people, a lot of young state reps as well. That there are a lot in their late teens, early 20s.
Oh, yeah.
And then you also have the people who are largely self-employed, or they work a shift to where they're able to go to committee hearings during the middle of the day in the middle of the week.
Right.
But my thing is, why is it states with big government are the ones legalizing marijuana first?
Well, they're also heavily regulating it, so...
Right. But still, it's I'd rather have it heavily regulated and have less people going to jail for it and more people have access to the medicine than have it, prohibited altogether.
I also think the reason is, it's seen as, and I'm not saying it is, but it's seen as a quote-unquote liberal issue.
Right.
And people that like to identify as conservatives don't like to do anything that they deem to be a liberal issue.
Yeah,
I think
back
that's
to religious and stuff.
Well, yeah, somewhat, or more of a conservatism. We've drugs have been illegal since the 30s, and we're I don't know. I do think that generations
people
have some impact on that. Different generations see the issue differently.
Right. So, and let's tie this back into the article that we started the hour with about the Supreme Court going to decide if lying about have you ever committed a crime that you were not arrested for could lead you to wind up having your citizenship application denied or your citizenship revoked many years later.
Right.
And if somebody in, say, New Hampshire smokes a cannabis cigarette and then they answer no on this, and then 20 years later, hey, wait a second, here's a picture of you on Facebook at this 420 rally.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was legal because I had come from the state where it was.
Right. And that's where this story comes from. And at the center of the case is, as we talked about, Maslajak versus U.S. and the meaning of 18 U.S.C. 1425, which is a federal statute, which makes it a felony to procure citizenship contrary to law. So the extension of this argument, is like, okay, well, I Judge Roberts, kind of jokingly questioned, I drove 60 miles an hour in a 55 zone. I wasn't arrested, but if I said that, no, I had never been arrested, if I answered, have you ever committed, assisted in, committed, or attempted to commit a crime or offense for which you were not arrested, if he lied on that, he could get his citizenship revoked. So this one, it had to do with this Divna Maslanjak, an ethnic Serb from Bosnia, who became a citizen in 2007, was convicted of violating 18 U.S.C. 1425 because she lied about her husband's military service while seeking refugee status in 1998 and did not acknowledge the lie when she applied for citizenship.
All I can think of right now is Elizabeth Warren. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Native American.
Exactly. Pocahontas. It's a matter of dispute whether that lie, which violated another law, makes it a crime for a naturalization applicant to knowingly make a false statement under oath, actually helped Maslanjak become a citizen. But during her trial, the prosecution argued that it did not matter. The judge agreed, telling jurors that they could convict her of illegally procuring citizenship, even if you find that a false statement did not influence the decision to approve the defendant's naturalization.
So if the question was, what color are your eyes? And she always thought they were blue, but they're actually hazel.
And she's colorblind. Let's say that, yeah.
You provided us false information. It made no difference on whether or not we approved your application, but you gave us false information, so therefore convicted of unsworn falsifications, and you're no longer a citizen. Go back to a country that doesn't exist.
Right.
Well, that's today when I got my license, and they asked my weight, and I kind of just guessed. I guesstimated. Is that lying?
Possibly.
If I'm like off by a pound.
Yeah, but this whole night has been stories about insane government rules and regulations. So we started out talking about a man in Oregon who wrote a letter to the state complaining about the speed at which red lights turned yellow or yellow turned green or whatever it was. And because he used the phrase engineer, and they said you'd never registered in the state of Oregon as an engineer, you are being fined $500. You have that insanity. So when you listen to this and you go, well, it's not like they're just going to go out there and look for reasons to deport people. You don't think they're going to go out there and look for reasons to deport people? Of course they will.
Especially with President Cheeto in the White House saying that he's going to look for reasons to deport people. This is Free Talk Live. Your calls and thoughts. Welcome. 855-450-3733. That's 855-450-FREE.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of Slingbow, a new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Are you looking to become more self-sufficient? Then you need to have your own energy source. The SolarK EMP hardened generator is automatic, maintenance-free, and reduces your monthly electric bill. You can also take it off-grid when you go camping. Contact PortableSolarLLC.com or call for details at 972-575-8875 today. Portable Solar LLC gives you everything you need to start using solar energy in less than 1 hour. SolarK EMP hardened solar generator energy insurance for your family or business. Call Portable Solar LLC today.
The warning signs.
At first, he made me feel special. He promised he'd look after me, provide for my future. He broke every promise he made.
Millions of Americans afflicted.
I was ready to leave, but he told me he'd change. So I gave him another chance. I was such a fool.
The consequences.
Things only got worse. He started making my decisions for me. About my job, my kids' education, my money, my safety, my future. He took away my choices, but I kept going back to the same politicians.
The diagnosis? Battered voter syndrome.
I fell for the same old lies. They were just playing with my emotions, telling me what I wanted to hear. That's not right.
If you're tired of the two-party system but want to support a principled Libertarian Party, check out the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire at lpnh.org. That's lpnh.org.
There's no better app for tracking the value of cryptocurrencies than CoinCap. I've had a lot of apps for tracking Bitcoin, but none that's ever been able to track 500 digital assets at once. Their best feature is the Altfolio. I love this thing. You enter how many Bitcoins, Ether, Dash, Doge, or whatever else you have, and it tells you how much your crypto is worth. You can watch yourself get rich. If you have crypto, go right now to coincap.io, or you can use the Apple Store or Google Play to get the app. I love CoinCap. coincap.io. The three most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share one episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. It's my firm belief that Free Talk Live's AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented organizations. Support all the organizations you love, but make sure you give $5 a month to AMP at amp.freetalklive.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. In studio, it's Daryl.
And Heather.
And Chris.
And we'll get back to the story from Reason about possibly losing your citizenship, maybe for telling the tiniest of lies. And before we do, I want to make sure that I tell you about Bitcoin.com. They recently reported that Bitcoin transaction fees have increased more than 1,200% since 2015. To many Bitcoin proponents, the current fee market is moving way too fast and making Bitcoin unusable for certain transactions. The fee market and slow confirmation times have also increased the tension concerning the block size debate. However, if there are wallets with low amounts of Bitcoin that can't cover the fees, they become virtually unspendable. Learn more at news.bitcoin.com. That's news.bitcoin.com.
So as we get back to this story from Reason, can you lose your citizenship by lying about your weight? We were talking about a court case involving a ethnic Serbian woman who did not acknowledge all the details about her husband's involvement in the military when they sought refugee status in 1998.
In the Bosnian military,
right
after the collapse of Yugoslavia.
Yeah, after all this time, and then they said that she made a false statement under oath. You didn't answer this one question correctly, therefore you need to be deported. And you know, the article goes on to talk about the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit.
Let's reread what the judge told the jurors in her case.
Yeah.
Where the judge told the jury that they could convict Miss Maslanjak of illegally procuring citizenship. Quote, even if you find that a false statement did not influence the decision to approve her naturalization.
Yeah. So in other words, regardless of whether you answered it true, false, up, down, left, it had no bearing whatsoever on how the decision was made for you to become a U.S. citizen.
But isn't there like a statute of limitations for this stuff, though? I'm pretty sure when I took the state licensing test for my insurance producer's license, that they'd mentioned something about like misrepresentations in contracts and stuff being null and void after like 2 years.
Well,
Do you
this isn't
recall
a
anything?
contract.
Yeah.
This is government.
And I think that type
Or
of
maybe
thing
that's
probably
only for private. Maybe it's not for government, right?
That's what I suspect. And yeah, the government in many cases can say, you know, we can enforce this law at any time we decide to enforce this law. So yeah, Daryl, that's what the judge said, and it was kind of silly, and you know, we think it's silly. But last year, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit approved that interpretation of the law, parting company with 4 other federal appeals courts. Yesterday, Parker urged the Supreme Court to uphold the Sixth Circuit's decision. Quote, what Congress was concerned here with is not that what people lied about. Rather, it was about the fact that they had lied.
Doesn't matter how minor the lie is.
Right.
Your eyes are hazel. You said blue. That's still a lie.
Yeah.
Return home.
Yep.
Oh, your home doesn't exist anymore. Well, you can't stay here.
Right. No soup for you. Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. So, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg, let me see where I'm at.
She asked a question, how can an immaterial statement
procure naturalization, asked Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Elena Kagan said, quote, seems quite natural, unquote, to require some causal connection between the false statement and obtaining citizenship. Samuel Alito suggested it was rather odd to say that someone, quote, procured X contrary to law, but the thing that she did had no potential to help her get that thing, unquote.
Right. It would be akin to saying, you bounced a check and you jaywalked on your way to the bank, so therefore jaywalking caused you to bounce the check. No. No, the two things are totally unrelated.
Yeah. So, and the story goes on. I encourage you, I think Daryl will probably put it in the show notes or post it online somewhere or something like that. But it just really comes down to, like, what little thing could you get wrong? And I'm not even talking lie. I'm saying just get wrong on an application. They give another example in this story, which I think is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, let's give that other example.
Yeah.
Question 22.
Yeah. Well, maybe we're thinking of a different one. This is
no, part 12, question 9. Sorry.
Part 12, question 9. And I want you guys at home to answer this question for me, please, just like you were applying for U.S. citizenship. Have you ever been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with any organization, association, fund, foundation, party, club, society, or similar group in the United States or anywhere else in any other location in the world? Then the form asks for the name and purpose of any such groups, along with the applicant's membership dates and any evidence to support your answers.
God.
Now, really, please answer that for me.
I'll do it.
You've got that information, and this is implied to encompass, because it's for naturalization, your entire life. So
right, this reminds me of some job applications that I had filled out several years ago.
That's what I was just about to say. You stole my thought, Daryl.
Where it was, provide every address you've lived at in the last 10 years. Well, there was a period of time where I lived in 5 different states in about 2 years.
Yeah.
And you want me to go back 10 years?
I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking when they asked for like the dates you worked at certain jobs, that I'm thinking like, oh, for your last like 10 years, and it's like,
I just wind up putting an approximate month, March of this year, I think.
Let me tell you one other thing that the federal government does, and they seem to be somewhat more lenient on. At least they were when I went through it, and that's when you go for a secret or a top secret security clearance with the U.S. government. The people that process these and do these realize that you're not going to get every exact date right. And do you really think that because you said you lived it in this apartment from June to December of this year, and in reality you signed the lease in May, that they're going to shoot somebody down because of that? If they need the people in that job, they're going to go, okay, well, that's an honest mistake. If you said that apartment was in New York and the apartment was actually in East Germany, yeah, they're probably going to have a little bit of a problem with that.
But
the
like
point
if
is,
you wind up, oh yeah, it was in Long Island, but was actually in like what's the White Plains or whatever.
Sure, some town there.
It's close enough. I can understand the confusion.
But the point is what this case would set a precedent for is that anything, and this article rightfully describes it as a minefield. Any incorrect answer could get you deported, and that's why the title of the story, if you lied about your weight, could you get deported? And the answer that the government would like the Supreme Court to come back with is yes.
And let's go to the phones. We've got Doug calling in from Illinois. Doug, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, hello. I pretty much want to contradict what Heather claimed here, that big government and the left can be more, pretty much, I don't know if she's been implying that, but they're more freedom-oriented.
Not freedom, just like they seem to be like at the front of the marijuana legalization movement.
Yeah, they're both hypocritical, and that can be where being a libertarian, we're completely different. I've heard people tell me with me being a libertarian that I'm pretty much a branch of the GOP. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, look, here in Illinois, we're far, far left. And, yeah, they're in favor of making marijuana legal. However, if you're going to light up tobacco, well, you're going to have to pay through your teeth for it. Make sure that you're 15 feet away from any private building or public building, even if it should be privately owned. They want to put another additional fee on sugar. They don't want you drinking pop. I looked at my brother in Chicago. My brother bought an older home. It hadn't been the right that wanted the landmark, that wanted the home made into a landmark. It had been the left when they found out that he wanted to put an addition on it. I mean, the left, they are tyrannical. They really are.
We're going to hold you over, okay? Can you stick on the phone?
Doug, hold on. We'll bring you back if you've got more, and I think you might. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
Message and data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas. When I was playing ball, they called me the Big Hurt. But after I left the game, Mother Nature started putting a big hurt on me. I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, it wasn't my fault. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. But luckily, I found out about Nugenix.
Nugenix is a unique man-boosting formula powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help boost your free testosterone levels. Get a complimentary bottle now by texting PRIME99 to 42424. With Nugenix, you can feel stronger, leaner, with a lot more stamina and energy.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenix is GNC's #1 selling men's vitality product. Get a complimentary bottle now by texting PRIME99 to 42424. Nugenix samples are not available in stores. So again, text PRIME99 to 42424.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business. So make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Did you know you can watch Free Talk Live during our live show 7 days a week from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern via our studio cams at cam.freetalklive.com? Plus, you can chat with other listeners while you watch, all totally free. Now that our live video stream is hosted by YouTube, our video archives will be online even faster. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Listen, watch, and chat all free at cam.freetalklive.com. That's cam.freetalklive.com.
When you hear the word lobbyist, you probably think about greedy corporations, but not all lobbyists are the same. Some are fighting for the freedoms you hold dear. Liberty Lobby LLC is doing just that in New Hampshire, working hard to represent you, not some special interest group. You can help by going to libertylobby.info, where your contribution will give us the tools we need to ensure that your voice is heard. Visit libertylobby.info today to find out more.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This is Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. In studio, it's Daryl.
And Heather.
And Chris.
And we've got a caller on the line we're going to bring back momentarily. He called in to take issue with something that you, Heather, had said.
He thought I was saying that, because a lot of blue states have legalized marijuana before some of the red states, that I was insinuating that they were freer, but I wasn't. I was just saying in that one particular area, they happen to be ahead of the game in terms of giving people access to marijuana. But it seems like there's been a toss-up because as they've, he mentioned the soda taxes and the tobacco regulations and stuff. And it does also say that all of these states are cracking down on tobacco and soda taxes at the same time, trying to make up for...
There's some commonality
the
here.
Underlying commonality.
We'll get to your underlying commonality, but I want to see what the caller had to say.
All right, let's bring Doug back on. Doug, continue with your thoughts.
Yeah. Hi, I'm not trying to attack Heather. I'm only trying to make the draw to the conclusion here that the left are no better than the right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't have big government. They've never been able to show that under big government, liberty and freedom will flourish. You can't have it.
100% agree.
The left are driven by nobility. They look at their version of nobility and then they want to push that down upon everybody in kind of like a mob rule fashion. They have no regard for liberty or freedom at all. Mm-hmm. I will give a little bit more credit to the people on the right that are Republican. At the minimum, I can talk to them and be like, okay, well, here can be what I believe, and we being a libertarian, why we believe what we believe. And, you go about your life, and if you're not directly harming other people, you should be allowed to do it. And, a lot of people, they can't differentiate between liberty and anarchy, which can be a major problem. I mean,
sure.
They think that under, liberty and libertarian, that, murder and rape would be perfectly fine. Everybody would do what they want to do.
Now, I think, and I kind of agree with you on the left versus right. I find more commonality with Republicans and conservatives, quote unquote. But my issue with the right is that they absolutely can talk the talk. We are for smaller government. We're for lower taxes. We're for draining the swamp. We're for getting government out of your life and all this stuff. Asterisk. But then they go and do all these things because either a common good or because they're just or it's something that their supporters want. And in the end, we end up with this very minor difference between Democrats, Republicans, left and right, conservatives, liberals, progressives.
Right. Some people say that they're just too.
Pretty much.
Go ahead.
Pretty much like
Go
what
ahead.
you have Trump doing right now. Pretty much like what you have Trump doing right now. Okay. He would like to cut the amount that people are paying into the government. But a big thing that the Republican people will do when they get in could be that they won't actually cut the government. And
Right,
therefore,
sure.
all that you're doing could be you're taking a charge card, you're putting the money on the charge card, and then you're having your children and your grandchildren pay for it at a later date. I mean, that ain't right. I mean,
And then they'll sit there and tell you for the next 4 years how it just isn't right while they continue to do it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it's agreed. It's not the left or the right. But I think Heather's point was kind of interesting that the states that have moved the furthest in extending a little bit more liberty in terms of a plant that can either make you feel good or help save your life. And we were rattling off a number of states: California, Washington, Oregon, Massachusetts, Maine, D.C., Colorado.
yeah, but
These
you
are
have
all
another
pretty
common issue there.
Right.
You
Well,
have another common issue there of them not only being left, like here in Illinois, we are 120 billion in debt with our pension fund.
Right.
We are going on 13 billion in our general fund. We're going on our third year without a budget.
Right.
The only time we've ever had that happen in the country. They are driven by money. They don't give a damn about, freedom and liberty. Oh, well, we agree with your freedom and your right to light up marijuana. No, they don't care about that. They want the revenue.
Right.
No, I don't doubt that.
That's the commonality of, Doug, I'm glad you had mentioned the increased tobacco tax, the sugar tax, and
The irony-
marijuana tax.
The irony, though, are these are also some of the states that I'm pretty sure, if we were to look into, receive more money back from federal grants and funding and stuff like that. They're all the ones implementing Common Core and all these other federal programs and stuff. So it is really bizarre that, they're getting the go-ahead and the free pass,
they're getting that. They're getting the money from the federal government.
Exactly.
It's not that hard to figure out.
I mean, you had Chicago, right? It was at one point in time like the DEA agents working hand in hand with the Sinaloa drug cartel, pushing drugs on the streets in exchange for rivals, information. And now all of a sudden they're legalizing a portion of that drug war, and
Right.
they're, capitalizing on the profit. So it's almost there's a lot of
There's a
questions.
lot at play here, and I agree with Doug that just because they're taxing and regulating something should not be construed as they support liberty.
Right. Not at all.
Doug, any final thoughts?
Oh, no, that'll pretty much cover it.
Thank you very
Thanks for
much for the call,
calling.
Doug.
Good call.
And I'm
Good
going to
talk.
try pulling up to see which states are donor states and which states are receiver states.
Ah, yeah.
By that you
Because-
mean which direction more money flows, to Washington or away from Washington?
Correct. And as of 2006, Colorado was a donor state, but that's probably changed over the last decade. Chris, is there any more on that story from Reason?
No, I think the long and the short of it is the executive branch of the federal government is asking the Supreme Court to rule in their favor with the idea that if you ever missed a question on a naturalization application, we can use anything, whether it's omission, incorrect statement, no matter how minor, even if it had nothing to do with whether we approved you, we can use that to deport you.
Well, this makes for a really good bridge to my topic if you guys want to jump right into that.
Yeah, I did find info. I found a map, and I'm not really sure how to dissect the info because they've got percentages here, and I'm not sure what these numbers mean on donor state versus receiver state. But they do have Colorado listed as number 34, Washington as number 33, California is number 43, and I think these might be the rank of where they are on receiving the monies from the feds. Alaska number 40, and we knew that Alaska would be down there because of the oil funds, to where every man, woman, and child in Alaska gets oil revenues based on it's nominally private money, but the money is being directed by the government because it's government controlled stuff. So yeah, it does look like some of these definitely are receiver states, but again, I'd have to dig into the numbers to find out exactly what they mean. So yeah, there was something really big that happened in Philadelphia this past weekend.
Yeah, speaking of marijuana laws, apparently Philadelphia is not so nice because
the city of brotherly love not being nice. They need to change the name of the city because otherwise we should sue for false advertisement.
They should have changed it when, was it the mayor firebombed whole neighborhoods and killed people?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
What was that? The Move?
Yeah,
Compound
it was the Move.
back in 1985, so 32 years ago.
Yeah,
and I've seen that video.
When you firebomb your own population, you cease to be able to call yourself the city of brotherly love.
Yeah, I've seen that video numerous times where they had the helicopter hover over and then they dropped the explosive and then it went down and blew up the apartment complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically this story comes to us from ABC6, and just days after 420, which is the day that most people associate with smoking marijuana, a lot of people engage in, protests and events and stuff like that. And there was one in Frankfurt. So it starts off, Philadelphia police say 22 arrests were made when they raided a massive pot party organized via social media. The Philly Smoke Session, in quotes, was held Saturday night inside a warehouse on the 4500 block of Worth Street in the city's Frankfurt section. The sign on the front of the building reads, Threads USA. Police say this was basically a giant gathering of people selling and smoking pot. Action News obtained a picture of the invite, which was shared on Instagram. It's their Spring Fling VIP event, and it was set for Saturday. 19 males and 3 females were arrested, but police say 175 others were released without charges. Now, what's crazy to me is that this is the kind of stuff that exists legally in states like Washington. Like, there are already in the United States places you can go that are like marijuana bars. Have you ever been to a hookah bar or anything like that?
Hookah bar, yes.
Yeah,
I've never been to a hookah bar, and I don't understand the infatuation with hookah.
It's just
people
like a
have
social
tried
thing.
to have
Sure.
explained to me how like smoking tobacco out of some sort of pipe thing is a social thing, but you're still smoking tobacco, and I find tobacco to be absolutely disgusting. We'll get back into this article. Your calls and thoughts. Welcome, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
A funny thing happens when you don't advertise. Nothing. Modern advertisers have been trained to look for trackability in their advertising, and web search ads are great for that. They also help you get the consumer that's looking for products like yours in the moment. But they're expensive, and they do nothing to convince people to try your product segment in the first place. If you're a local advertiser, contact this station. If you can use national exposure, Free Talk Live's on more than 150 stations, and we can help advertisers with little budgets and big ones. Send me an email, mark@freetalklive.com. It's mark@freetalklive.com.
Bitcoin.com is of the opinion that the current Bitcoin core development team is not taking satisfactory steps to ensure the growth and advancement of Bitcoin in accordance with Satoshi's vision. As community efforts to resolve these problems have failed, it is necessary to resolve them with a different approach. By using subreddit r/BTC instead of r/Bitcoin and running Bitcoin Unlimited, you are casting a vote against the current development team. Learn more at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to bipcot.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
For years, LRN.FM has had a listen line that you can call and listen to LRN.FM anytime. Now we're taking the idea to a new level with the LRN.FM audio on-demand line. You can call 641-793-9660 anytime and listen to LRN.FM's live feed, and you can listen to a bunch of our original shows on demand. Long-distance fees may apply. Just dial 641-793-9660 and choose from the menu. 641-793-9660.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, April 27th, 2017. Silver is trading at $17.41 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,264 per ounce. Bitcoin is trading at 1.8 cents, and the average price of Bitcoin is $1,304. Antiwar.com reports Turkey is accusing the Syrian government of having fired mortar shells against one of their military bases in the southeastern Hatay province, an attack which coincided with shelling from Kurdish forces against the same part of Turkey. Syria has not confirmed involvement in the strike, but the statement from Turkey's military claimed that the shelling originated from territory that they believe to have been under control of the Syrian military forces. It's not clear why the Syrian military would attack a Turkish border post far from any territory the government still controls, but Turkey would clearly be quite eager to make such claims, as it provides a justification for retaliatory strikes and potentially raids to seize more territory from their rebel allies. Turkey's military also claimed to have responded in kind to the Syrian military, but did not detail exactly what they attacked, and there has yet to be any word out of Syria of anything being hit other than Kurdish territory. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports nearly 24 Democrats in the U.S. Senate, led by former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, pledged to support a bill Wednesday that would raise the federal minimum wage incrementally to $15 per hour by 2024. Sanders, an independent senator from Vermont, spearheaded a rally at Capitol Hill in support of the legislation, which aims to more than double the federal minimum wage in the next 7 years. The minimum wage has remained at $7.25 per hour for nearly a decade. Sanders said at the rally, "Nobody can live on $7.25. You can't live on $8, and you can't live on $10 an hour. That's why we're saying after 10 years of inaction, the United States Congress is going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. Under the proposed legislation, the federal hourly minimum wage would increase to $9.25 this year, $12 in 2020, and $15 4 years later. After 2024, the amount would raise according to median wage growth. Sanders said, "It's not a radical idea to say that in this country, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. We can win this fight if we stick together." 2 years ago, Sanders pushed a similar bill to hike the wage to $15 per hour, but had only 5 co-sponsors. This time, he has 21 co-sponsors, including Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, former vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine, President Pro Tem Emeritus of the Senate Patrick Leahy, and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker. Although he has more sponsorship this time, Sanders still faces an uphill battle getting the bill passed in a GOP-controlled Congress with a GOP-controlled White House. Experts note, however, that the push is likely to put more pressure on Republicans to fight for American workers. Born into a devastating world and raised among the crowd, the Cloudwalker assumes a new identity and begins the unrelenting quest for truth. In this epic journey, he discovers dark secrets about aspects of his previous life that he once trusted. Through the Journal of the Cloudwalker, he shares both the traumatic hardships and the eternal beauties of his experiences. Fueled in the beginning by his unsettling thoughts and emotions, he learns how to find peace with everything he has woken up to. Dear Society by the Cloudwalker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports Chief Justice John Roberts took issue on Wednesday with the Trump administration's stance in an immigration case, saying it could make it too easy for the government to strip people of citizenship for lying about minor infractions. Roberts and other U.S. Supreme Court justices indicated support for a deported ethnic Serbian immigrant over her bid to regain her U.S. citizenship after it was stripped because she falsely stated her husband had not served in the Bosnian Serb army in the 1990s after Yugoslavia's collapse. Roberts seemed particularly concerned that the government was asserting it could revoke citizenship through criminal prosecution for trivial lies or omissions. He noted that in the past he has exceeded the speed limit while driving. Roberts noted if immigrants failed to disclose that on a citizenship application form asking them to list any instances of breaking the law, they could later lose their citizenship. Roberts described the administration's interpretation as inviting prosecutorial abuse because the government could likely find a reason for stripping citizenship from most naturalized citizens. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Over 60% of employers are now checking online amateur pornography of potential job candidates. Is it fair to base hiring decisions on an applicant's online porn?
Now, this is not fair at all. For instance, if there's a red tube video of my girlfriend slapping me and choking me and riding me, that shouldn't be an indication I'm going to lack leadership in a work situation.
Yeah, but Duncan, it's going to be hard to convince an employer who's masturbating to that video otherwise.
Exactly. My potential employer might see all those videos of my husband tying me up and having his way with me, and then they're going to think that I'm not going to be assertive enough for the job.
I mean, if you don't want to jeopardize the content of your porn, you can always shoot from the eyes down.
Oh, but that's not the same if you cover the eyes. That's where the innocence is.
So am I supposed to leave an orgy just because someone shows up with a camera?
No one's saying you should leave an orgy.
Right. So
it's more complicated.
So now, if I go to a party, I wear something like this in case that situation comes up again.
I like that. I actually shoot my porn in sepia tone and make it look old-timey, so if people see it, they'll think it's my grandfather and not
Okay.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, kicking off our number 3 in studio. It's Daryl.
And Heather.
And Chris.
And doing a little bit more digging here, trying to understand this map that I had pulled up because there was discussion during the second hour about the states that have begun taxing and regulating cannabis, possibly being receiver states from the federal government, meaning they receive more money from the federal government than is sent to the federal government from their state. Was not able to find that list, but I did find information on which states rely the most on federal aid, and this is specifically as it relates to money from the federal government going to the state's general budget. So Alabama is number 14 on the list. They get 34.9% of their state revenue comes from the federal government. Number 1 is Mississippi at 40.9%. Louisiana, number 2 at 40.1%. Followed by Tennessee, Montana, and Kentucky, all over 38.5. At the other end of the spectrum, you have North Dakota, Virginia, Connecticut, Nevada, and Hawaii, all under 25% of their state revenue comes from the federal government. But again, this is not the traditional donor state, receiver state sort of breakdown that a lot of people talk about. And a statistic that I had heard, I believe for New Hampshire, is New Hampshire gets back like 80 cents for each dollar sent to the federal government from the state. I've not been able to, check those numbers as far as updated numbers on that. And these are things that, even when I do find a number now, it's going to be from several years ago just because that's the way statistics are.
Yeah.
Heather, you started telling us about some arrest that happened in Philadelphia of some cannabis activists. What happened? When was it? And how many people?
22 people. It was April 22nd, and it was in Frankfurt, Philadelphia.
All right.
So, basically, 22 people were arrested. They had a little pop party. They advertised it on Instagram. It was just a bunch of people there. On Sunday, protesters actually stood outside police headquarters in support of the almost 24 people that were arrested.
Hold on. The police did not describe it as a small pop party. They described it as, what was the word they used? Massive.
Well, it was a pretty big gathering. There was 175.
How many people were there?
There was 175 others, not including the 22 that were arrested.
Yeah, that's not a small party. A small party is like 4 or 5 people sitting in a living room.
Oh, I get it. But when police are describing things that have to do with the war on drugs, it's, there was another article that came out of Chicago, and I don't mean to dissuade from this one, but it showed a picture of like a 1844 cowboy 6-shooter, a piece of crap Derringer, and like a little dime bag of pot. And it was the Chicago Police Department congratulating some unit on their massive drug bust.
The street value of this is $247 quadrillion.
Yeah, it was one of those things. So it's typical of drug warriors to describe things in phrases like massive.
And then if they catch you with edibles, they don't do a calculation of, oh, there's only 4 milligrams of THC in this brownie. They weigh the brownie. We caught somebody with 5 pounds of cannabis.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny because you say that this is, I mean, it is kind of a relatively big crowd, but if you think about it, it's 175 plus 22 people. So
nearly 200 people.
You look at any 80s rock band that has a concert and half the stadium is high on weed. So, I mean, this really isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, good point.
And the other thing, too, is that you have almost 200 people here that were all there and nobody's fighting. Nobody's getting hurt. Nothing's going wrong until the police show up. You know what I mean? So it's just...
The police
crazy.
showed up, which means something went wrong. We'll get back into the story. Let's go to Liberty Lover calling in on Skype. Liberty Lover, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Hey, guys. How are you tonight?
Good.
Doing all right. Go ahead with your thoughts.
I'm good. Speaking of 80s Rock Festival smelling like pot, I'm actually going to one tomorrow. So,
Well, I just wanted to know if you could maybe list 10 bands that you've seen, but tell me one of them is a lie.
Hold on. So
I'm kidding.
What are some of the bands that are going to be at this 80s pot festival with the rock problem?
Rat, Loverboy's going to be there.
Ooh.
Dawkins, Warrant,
Wow.
Kicks. Faster Pussycat, yeah.
No kidding.
But what I wanted to actually ask was, who do you think has inspired each one of you the most in the fight for liberty?
Ooh.
Like, who was your role model?
Anybody want to go first? I'll go first.
Go ahead, Chris.
Ron Paul. Yeah, as far as like initial inspiration, got me. I started to look at Ron Paul because I couldn't stand the rest of the Republican field, and damn it, I was going to vote Republican because I've always voted Republican. So I started looking at Ron Paul. So he was the one who really, I think it was my first wake up.
Was that 2008 or 2012?
No, 2012. I'm telling you, I'm a late bloomer, guys. Hate to admit it. Hate to admit it, but I am.
Heather?
I mean, originally, like, my activism was more or less fueled by, like, having felt the sting of government and having, like, seen other people. And so it was kind of, like, self-driven. But once I finally, like, got into the Libertarian Party, I'd say Dan Fishman in Massachusetts really, like, was a great mentor for me in terms of, like, navigating through the political systems and becoming, like, serving on state committee out there for a couple years. And then most recently, having worked with the Libertarian Party, I ended up meeting now one of, like, my best friends, Adam Kokesh. And I, like, originally him and I, like, didn't philosophically, like, agree on things, but I do think that he is definitely one of the most driven and dedicated activists that I can say I've ever seen. So, I mean, he puts in so many hours and a lot of time, and he's really dedicated. And, I think he puts in far more time than I do, but.
I wouldn't say I necessarily have any role models per se, but
like
a lot
respect.
of my there are a lot of people that I
and Daryl
respect.
Perry, what am I talking about? Like, Daryl
yeah.
Perry is like my other friggin' favorite one. Like, if it wasn't for you, Daryl, like you and Ian, like, I wouldn't be going to the State House once every week. Like, I mean, just last week, because of them inspiring me to go to the State House, I testified. I was one of 3 people that testified in front of that bill. Was it for the marijuana bill there? That ended up going into an executive committee, and they voted on it, and it passed. So 3 people that were speaking in favor, and I was one of them, and it was all because you guys inspired me to do that. So
I would say the writings of Frederick Bastiat and also Mary Ruwart, who I have had the pleasure of meeting several times. She is a wonderful, amazing woman. And I highly recommend, and I am not being paid to say this at all, I highly recommend that everybody grab a copy of Healing Our World.
Yeah, I've heard that from others,
it's
too.
one of those books, especially if you wind up leaning from things either from a religious perspective or from kind of a leftist sort of, like I feel for the world sort of perspective. definitely grab a copy of this book. And there's, I think, 4 editions out now, and they're all slightly different. I have the newest edition. I've not actually read the newest edition, but yeah, I cannot recommend that book enough.
So I got to ask you, what would you say yours is, Liberty Lover?
Well, it all started, this will be very brief. It all started last year where I was actually participating a lot in the Republican primary field.
Mm-hmm.
And I in the beginning, I listened to John Kasich because it made a lot of sense. But one day, out of curiosity, I turned on C-SPAN during the Libertarian Convention, and I saw the debate. And one particular person on that stage jumped out at me as somebody that I would forever see as a model from that point on, and that would be Daryl Perry.
I know.
Nice.
Isn't Daryl awesome?
Liberty Lover,
He is.
thank you for the call. If you've got more, hang on. If not, thank you for the call. Your calls and thoughts welcome. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. And we'll get back into this Philly smoke session arrest. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you need a website for your blog or new business? It can be pretty intimidating on your own, and that's why Free Talk Live has partnered with HostGator, one of the top hosting companies. HostGator offers a simple one-click, easy installation for WordPress, 24/7 over-the-phone or live chat tech support, and a very intuitive, user-friendly control panel that puts the power of creation back into your hands. Go to HostGator.com/FTL, and you'll get 50% off of their regular hosting prices. 50% off. HostGator.com/FTL.
Bitcoin.com recently reported Bitcoin transaction fees have increased by more than 1,200% since 2015. To many Bitcoin proponents, the current fee market is moving way too fast, making Bitcoin unusable for certain transactions. The fee market and slow confirmation times have also increased the tension concerning the block size debate. However, if there are wallets with low amounts of Bitcoin that can't cover the fees, they become virtually unspendable. Learn more at news.bitcoin.com. That's news.bitcoin.com.
Hey, diabetics. Yeah, you. Got a spare hour to waste going to the pharmacy to get your insulin or other meds and supplies every month? I didn't think so. Me either. I've got life going on, which is why I use PillPack. PillPack is an amazing online pharmacy. They package up all my diabetic meds and testing supplies into daily doses and send it to me every month, automatically. All I do is pay my normal copay. PillPack does the rest. I'm serious. This is a free service. They don't even charge for shipping. PillPack handles all the medical insurance stuff and even get with my doctors for my other prescriptions so I don't have to, which is good because that's the stuff I forget. But PillPack remembers everything. They even package up my daily vitamins so I remember to take them too. If you're diabetic, your meds and supplies are life and death, which means you need PillPack. Call right now for this free service. You may even qualify for $25 in free vitamins. 800-560-7310. That's 800-560-7310. Again, 800-560-7310.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to is probably so swamped with applicants that he or she is tough to reach. So call early in the day, before 8 a.m., before the palace guards arrive. You'll need your prospect's direct number, and here's a sneaky way to get it. Suppose the company's main number is 555-5000. You should call 555-5012. When someone says, "Good morning, Pam Johnson," you should innocently say, "Oops, somebody here must have written this down wrong. I was calling for Tom Frederick. What's his direct number?" If the very next thing you hear isn't Pam giving you Tom's number, it may be, "Good morning, Tom Frederick." For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The 3 most important things you can do for Free Talk Live are: 1, share 1 episode a week on Facebook or in some other social networking site. 2, buy the things you buy online through shop.freetalklive.com. 3, give $5 a month to the AMP program. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same prices with free Super Saver shipping by going to shop.freetalklive.com. Please do your online shopping at shop.freetalklive.com. Radio is the most personal of mediums. I exist right now in your head. If you listen to Free Talk Live regularly, you know me. Free Talk Live is on more than 160 radio stations around the U.S. and has been downloaded on every continent around the world. Hundreds of thousands of listeners with ad packages from $600 a month to $6,000 a month. Imagine what we can do for your business, project, website, or idea. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We'll get back into the story about the Philly smoke session where 22 people wound up getting arrested. But first, I want to make sure that I tell you about a fairly easy way that you can actually wind up creating a website. Because, well, maybe you've been thinking about starting a website, but you've not yet put that idea into action. Well, you're in luck because HostGator, one of the top hosting companies out there, is offering a special deal to Free Talk Live listeners. Go to HostGator.com/FTL, and you can get up to 50% off their regular prices. Hosting your own website or blog can be intimidating, but HostGator makes it easy. They offer a simple one-click easy installation for WordPress, and they have 24 hours, 7-day per week over the phone or live chat tech support, and a very intuitive and user-friendly control panel that puts the power of creation and the simplicity of use into the hands of you, the customer. HostGator also has 99.99% uptime ratings, so you don't have to worry about outages. To get the special offer of up to 50% off for Free Talk Live listeners, visit HostGator.com/FTL. Before we get back to the Philly story, let's go to the phones. We've got Patrick calling in from Arizona. Patrick, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Hey, yesterday, I'm sorry, I was waiting for your phone to answer, but my wife pulled up and had a honeydew for me, so I had to get off the phone. I had to get a chance to ask you. Well, what do you think of when the United States was based on territories before they became states? Do you think that, I mean, you guys are pretty knowledgeable. Do you think that actually things were run a little better when they were territories versus states?
Huh.
I
don't
know. That's something that I've ever really thought of.
Right. But I would say just in general, there was some overhead that comes when a territory became a state. So now you have federal regulations and stuff like that.
Well,
it's one of those things.
The territory, and there are still territories today.
Sure.
I mean, I think
and
it's
there
just...
are federal regulations that do apply. Now,
that's true.
You know, like I think it's
without a lot of the rights.
American Samoa. Some of the regulations don't apply. Samoans from American Samoa, and then there's the independent Republic of Samoa. But the Americans born in American Samoa are considered nationals, not citizens.
Correct.
They actually don't have any national citizenship anywhere. But if they wish to become U.S. citizens, then you're like front of the line, unless you wind up lying about your weight, and then back of the line because you lied.
And they can join the military, but there are certain other rights that the government. I should say there are certain other benefits that the government doesn't extend to them, and there's certain rights that the government does not protect.
I'm gonna say. Answer to your question though is that I think you can go back as far as like cowboys and Indians, and you have human behavior. You have people that want to dominate other people, and that's that's what government is essentially. Is just a group of people that are trying to control other people. And whether you call it territories or states, that's just a word to describe a geographic location.
Well,
but essentially it's human behavior fighting
It is
over,
a word used to describe a geographical area, but a territorial government doesn't have, all of the quote unquote rights and privileges that a state government has.
Yeah, and that could be good or bad. Go ahead.
Well, you could own land out here, back. I did some little bit of research on this, because Arizona was part of a larger territory. I mean, people who owned the properties and land and everything, that was theirs. There was none of the interference that was going on
right.
with the federal government stepping in and dealing with people. And even law enforcement was, like in my field, it wasn't as regulated, but the people would actually have a say in who they wanted to watch over their city or, their little bit towns or whatever.
Much more local.
And it simplified things, especially when it came to dealing with issues like what you're talking about. I mean, some cities, hey, they didn't mind, like you say, cannabis or things like that. They found when this got out of control or somebody tried to poison something or something like that. And it just your guest yesterday. I've been following your program, as you know, for a while, and I've heard him before. And a lot of the areas that he was talking about in Arizona and everything like that were territories at one point, and people left you alone back then. I mean, as long as you weren't interfering in their business or creating a big problem, you were pretty much left alone. And if you needed help,
I think
it was based on the barter system.
Right. And I think the point is, and I think this is probably a good takeaway, is that when things were handled much more locally, when you did not have an expansive, trying to regulate or control millions and millions and millions of acres, but instead I'm trying to provide goods and services for, this 100, 200, 500, 800 acre town or something like that, things are probably going to run a lot more efficiently. And conversely, it's probably was easier to organize and operate, some semblance of a state, if you want to say that, a sovereign state, because that's how all states began when our country was formed. They were all sovereign states. That's what they declared themselves to be. And territories were, but then they, got some mantle of federal ownership because they were settled on lands that were either purchased through the Louisiana Purchase or others.
The Gadsden Purchase.
Yeah.
Then there were a bunch of other purchases that I forget
or
the
treaties,
names of.
treaties, things like that, yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting point.
Yeah, I just, it just, because, working, you guys ask, I work in a very simple area where it's not complex, and I've worked in the big cities, and I'm telling you right now, it's night and day. You deal with problems, you're able to deal with situations in a more positive way in the smaller atmosphere versus than trying to deal with the big picture, because then everybody's in a competition for each other.
Right.
That isn't the way law enforcement's supposed to be, and that's what you're talking about. I mean, they're bragging about, something about there. They don't realize that there are people that are in jail right now that they've created drama for, situations for. They're thinking about the people that they're out there to protect. Yeah. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm old school. I didn't sign up in the years that I've been doing this to not care, And that's what you guys are talking about. Your law enforcement bragging about things like that. I mean, really, the key is what good is them bragging?
Smaller and more local is definitely better.
Patrick, thank you for the call. Your calls and thoughts welcome. 855-450-FREE. This is Free Talk Live.
Be prepared for the next disaster with the Shelter Pod. The Shelter Pod is a large, all-season, heavy-duty, quick-deploy shelter. The Shelter Pod system can be set up in 30 seconds and includes an emergency medical kit, water filter, survival tools, and more. Are you prepared to take care of your family? Do you have everything in one place ready to go? Get it now or enter to win a complete Shelter Pod system at ShelterPod.com. The Shelter Pod at ShelterPod.com. Shelter when you need it most.
Do you know what's lurking in your water? More than 200 contaminants could be sitting there, just waiting for your glass. With a ProPure water filter, start enjoying clean and great-tasting water today. ProPure filters, independently tested, latest water filter technology. ProPure systems do not require electricity and are easy to set up and easy to use. To find out more, visit your authorized ProPure dealer or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
Free Talk Live.
I don't care what they wrote down on pieces of paper. The fact is, this government exists through consent. It exists through mass consent because people believe in it. It's a cult. People believe in the idea that it's okay to aggress against their neighbors so long as they have a good reason for it. They believe that it's okay to aggress against their neighbors so long as a majority of people walking into some booth check a box somewhere.
People spend more time thinking about the government and pledging allegiance to the flag than they do. Many people spend more time pledging allegiance to the flag than they do praying to their God. Their religion is this government.
It's actually, if you believe in like the Christian religion and all that, putting other gods above your God is usually a pretty bad thing.
Yeah,
But
to me, the Pledge of Allegiance is simply a prayer to the God of the government.
it's essentially religious indoctrination for the state.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Lil Drums. Every bit as fun as a full-size Nestle drumstick cone and definitely cuter. Visit us at drumstick.com. Vacations are all about family time, but you don't have to leave home to have fun. Take 1 weekend a month and devote it to family activities. Pull out the board games and puzzles, serve up some treats, or have a picnic. Even without leaving home, you'll feel like you've really had some time away. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com. You can get emailed announcements and participate in contests via our email updates list. Plus, we have a Twitter account that you can follow and a Facebook page where you can become a fan. So visit news.freetalklive.com to get news about Free Talk Live as soon as it's announced and the way you want it delivered at news.freetalklive.com. That's news.freetalklive.com.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way.
You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa, hey.
Who do you think
Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait
Now.
a minute.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me?
Because you scared me.
What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this?
Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. In studio, it's Daryl.
And it's Heather.
And Chris.
And Heather is telling us about the Philly smoke session that happened this past weekend. Wound up 22 people getting arrested out of almost 200 people that were at the party that the Philly police were calling a massive party. And again, this isn't, like some kind of small hangout in a living room sort of thing, but it's also, not filling up the, whatever the sports arenas would be there in Philadelphia.
Well, it used to be the Spectrum, but Spectrum's still there?
I don't like the Steelers.
I don't know, but they've got the baseball team, the football team, a basketball team, and a hockey team.
Well, now I know why they call them the Steelers, because in Philadelphia, the police like to steal a bunch of stuff.
The Steelers are Pittsburgh.
You sports fail.
And
Philadelphia. It's Pennsylvania, same state.
STEELERS.
Really?
Yeah, there's a bunch of losing teams. So what do I care?
Oh my God!
Sorry, I'm a Patriots fan.
Yeah, go tell Bradshaw. What was his first name?
Terry Bradshaw.
Terry. Yeah, go
About a
tell
bunch of
Terry
losers.
Bradshaw, who's got how many Super Bowl rings?
Five,
I'm like
that he's a
internally
loser?
conflicted though, because like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have such a good relationship with Trump that I'm like pulling my hair out. Like, why?
How do I handle this? I can't.
I
handle
know
it.
it's so weird.
So Philly smoke session. A bunch of people got arrested.
Yep. And on Sunday, protesters actually stood outside the police headquarters to support the almost 24 people that are arrested, which is incredibly important when stuff like this happens in your community. If people are rallying up, I mean, this is like 22 people that didn't hurt anybody that are being put in cages now and subjected to this simply for possessing a plant and having a good time with their friends. So we spoke with Mike Whiter, which is a medical marijuana activist who was at the event but not arrested. And he claims that this is about helping people. This is Philly Smoke Session. This is a cannabis community of Philadelphia. It's a community that likes to help people, that likes to help patients. And a lot of these people here are medical marijuana patients, says Whiter.
Okay, so here's a point that I want to make. Whether your state has medical marijuana or doesn't have medical marijuana, and I don't think Pennsylvania is there yet.
I don't think
They're
they
not
have
even
it.
medically there?
That does not mean that you are not a medical marijuana patient. Hey, you know what I mean?
Right.
You
And
don't need state sanctioning. And the reason this is fresh in my mind, because I talked to a good friend of mine today, and we were talking a little bit about her history with migraines. And she said, you know what works for me? And she suffered for these things for years.
Cannabis.
Pot. I smoke some pot. I go to sleep. I wake up. The migraine's gone. And she's been on all the major migraine drugs. And she's telling her doctor this. And her doctor's like, then just smoke pot.
Right.
And she's
one
like thinking
thing-
now maybe I can get a card.
One thing that keeps going through my mind whenever I see somebody say something along these lines of, I'm just trying to help medical marijuana patients. That's why I'm selling them cannabis. Watch out that you don't wind up getting charged with practicing medicine without a license, because that's what you're admitting to doing here by saying, I'm just trying to help patients get the medicine they need.
Right.
You're admitting, like the guy at the beginning of the show that said, I'm an engineer, and they said, well, we don't have you on file, so therefore guilty. These people say, I'm just trying to help patients get what they need. Well, you're practicing medicine without a license. You're not a pharmacist. You're not a doctor. And you're telling people that, this is a medicine.
So in addition to these arrests, police confiscated approximately 50 pounds of marijuana,
Questionable.
100 pounds of THC-infused edibles.
All right, and this is something that I had mentioned earlier, to where they do this weight, and they'll just weigh the entire thing of, here's a 5-pound brownie, and there's some THC in there, so therefore that's 5 pounds of cannabis. No, it's not. There might only be, like 10 milligrams, 15 milligrams per serving. Figure out the serving, and then adjust accordingly. That is not 100 pounds of THC in those. Now, I will, give ABC some credit here and say 100 pounds of THC infused edibles. So they're admitting that the entire weight of the edibles, but I guarantee you the charge is going to wind up saying 150 pounds of marijuana.
Right. And did the police combine that? Because these are the police statistics. It's not, you know what I mean? Did they count those twice to make the story sound better?
It does say and, so
I know what it
probably
says. No, I know what it says, but do we know? I don't know.
Either way,
I've
it's
not found the
theft.
police report,
It's
but
theft of private property
There you
that they
go.
never should have taken in the first place.
And in
they
addition to-
in addition to the 50 pounds of marijuana and 100 pounds of THC infused edibles, they also seized 4 handguns and $50,000 in cash. And I just want to point out, because I know there's probably going to be a couple listeners like, oh my God, 4 handguns. But when you think about it, when you have people doing this, right, they're like, This is medicine essentially to some people that changes drastically their life. That, you know what, some people are like, I don't care if a small group of people that calls themselves government says these people can't have access. We're going to give them that stuff because they deserve to have it. And when you do that and you end up selling them this medicine on the black market, naturally you can't call police, you know, the people that are going to seize your stuff in the event that something happens. So you carry your own protection. It doesn't mean that they had these 4 handguns because they were going to kill anybody, because as we saw, we had 200 people at this event and nobody got hurt.
And let's also point out that, you know, there are a lot of prescription drugs that have really bad side effects and are also highly addictive, and being prescribed those does not somehow infringe on your right to defend yourself.
Right. But, and also, I mean, you take the number of people that have had suicidal thoughts, tendencies due to a lot of these prescription drugs. A lot of people die. And I've yet to hear about that person who died from the marijuana.
Yeah. I think I did hear a story about a crate of marijuana falling on someone.
That could do it.
But nobody ever dying from, you know, just ingesting cannabis by itself.
Yeah.
So I pointed out that whole little tirade about the handguns thing because the article goes on to say and points out the very people that would say these things. Neighbors say the bust is a relief. They say parties like this have been going on in the warehouse all the time. And on top of their neighborhood smelling like marijuana, they are not surprised to hear guns were inside and say they are glad police shut it all down before someone got hurt.
The smell of marijuana. See, that's the same thing. So as I, a smoker, you know, nobody ever came up to me and said, you're smoking and I've been around you and I went to the doctor and this tumor developed in me because I was near you. No, people don't like the smell of it, so they complain about it. And then you have anti-smoking laws everywhere. So they don't like the smell of marijuana. Therefore, this has to be shut down. I don't like it. And I guarantee you there's probably raves going on in the warehouse district too, right?
Well, they say there are parties there all the time, and I'm guessing...
So we're lumping them all in together.
Yes, they are lumping all of the parties that have ever happened at this warehouse together with this particular party called the Philly Smoke Session. Now, I'm curious if there have been arrests at other parties at this warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Well... It goes on to say the Department of Licenses and Inspections responded to the scene, which police say was a fire and safety hazard due to the crowd side, use of butane torches, and presence of only one exit.
Oh my God, there's a butane torch in there. So you're going to light everyone on fire with a butane torch? You can light everybody on fire with a pack of matches. You can do it with 2 sticks if you rub them fast enough against each other.
It's just crazy. Nobody got hurt. There was like 200 people there.
No, 22 people wound up getting hurt because they got arrested by police and they had their weed seized and possibly their guns. Your calls and thoughts welcome in the closing moments. 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. This is Free Talk Live.
If you're a sleep apnea sufferer who's on the go to your phone. Because if you give us a call right now, you'll be able to try the world's first portable mini CPAP device absolutely risk-free for 10 restful nights. It's the Transcend Mini CPAP, an engineering marvel that's as small as a soda can and weighs less than a pound. Its unique design is so small and so light, you can fit it in your briefcase or purse to use anywhere you go. No more dragging around a big, bulky CPAP. Even better, now you can try Transcend absolutely risk-free for 10 restful nights by calling minicpap.com, 1-800-768-3138. Transcend is FAA compliant too, so you can even sleep comfortably while flying. You can also add a battery pack that's as tiny as a deck of cards. So now you can enjoy the freedom to sleep comfortably anywhere. But don't wait. To receive your 10-night in-home trial, call minicpap.com now. 1-800-768-3138. That's 1-800-768-3138.
Have you racked up more than $10,000 in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by, making minimum payments? You should know the credit card companies are tricking you into thinking there's no way out. Credit card companies would rather you didn't know that there are ways you can become debt-free and you don't have to pay the entire amount you owe. There are debt relief programs that help people like you escape overwhelming credit card debt. National Debt Relief has helped tens of thousands of people just like you reduce more than $500 million of debt. National Debt Relief has helped so many people they're A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. You don't have to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan. You have the right to settle your debt for a mere fraction of what you owe. Reduce a large portion of your debt now. Call National Debt Relief at 800-314-7417. 800-314-7417. That's 800-314-7417.
Hi, folks. In a world of GMO, genetically modified organisms, that is, chemicals, processed foods, and a healthcare system that's unraveling like a cheap suit, it's time to prepare. God created herbs, and herbs help man. Our body can heal itself, just sometimes we need assistance. You need some help? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our mild detox is quite powerful with its unique blend of 8 different herbs. And if you're looking for more, our non-GMO supplements will help you with different needs you might have. Health should be a top priority. Take care of your health naturally. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Give your body a treat. Let the herbs do their thing naturally. Read all the testimonies on the website, GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Sickness and viruses are like intruders, and herbs are like warriors. Let the tea work for you. That's GetTheTea.com.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com.
What do you shop for that you could otherwise buy at Amazon? Pretty much everything, right? Amazon has competitive pricing and they deliver, and that's a big plus. If you could plan ahead in your shopping, would you be interested in saving up to 33%? There's a catch. You have to do your shopping in Bitcoin. But imagine those savings. It's like a huge raise. All you have to do is go to SaveItPurse.com. We've saved thousands, and you can too. Plan ahead and save. SaveItPurse.com.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. Time for you and your thoughts. If you call in now to 855-450-FREE, that's 855-450-3733. There's a little bit more from the story out of Philly, the Philly smoke session. We'll get back into that. But if you're going to do any shopping online anytime soon, then we would like to ask you to begin that shopping experience at shop.freetalklive.com. Now, I'm going to say this as a police officer real quick. I'm going to have to ask you to visit shop.freetalklive.com. Nice. Now, I have to ask because I can't just, hack into your computer and make you go to shop.freetalklive.com before you go to Newegg or Amazon or Walmart or one of the other affiliates that we have. But what happens when you go to shop.freetalklive.com is Free Talk Live just winds up getting basically what amounts to a finder's fee for sending customers to those various affiliates. Now, once you go to shop.freetalklive.com, just bookmark the link that you're going to use, and then just use the bookmark, and then you don't have to do the extra steps there. Shop.freetalklive.com. Heather has the story out of Philadelphia where 22 people were arrested, and police say that they seized 50 pounds of marijuana and 100 pounds of THC-infused edibles, and they also wound up stealing 4 handguns and $50,000 in cash. And the neighbors, they're breathing a sigh of relief because they say the neighborhood smells like weed, and they're There are parties in this warehouse all the time.
Young whippersnappers.
And they're so glad that the police did that so that nobody got hurt. Failing to realize 22 people are now in cages being deprived the opportunity to be with their families.
So now nobody's ever going to party again.
We solved the party problem.
We solved the problem of illegal parties in the warehouse.
Well, back to the Department of Licenses and Inspections, which responded to the scene. They said there are warehouse spaces throwing illegal parties all the time. Often we are able to stop them before they start. We don't do that because we're not fun. We don't do that because we're not mad because we weren't invited. We do it because it's a potential death trap very often.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what Karen Gus of Licenses and Inspections said.
No, they're not fun. They're mad that they didn't get invited. And
I'm not mad.
Somebody has a butane torch. Now, I will say there is one legitimate concern here. Of you've got 200 people in a warehouse and there's only one exit.
Yeah, that's not really safe.
That's a legitimate concern. All of the other stuff, they're mad that they weren't invited and they're no fun.
Daryl, have you never crowd surfed before? I'm a little disappointed. Something happens, it would just throw you to the door.
Yeah, and
no,
yeah,
I've never
but do we need
before.
government to?
I crowd surfed to the Dropkick Murphys. It was pretty awesome.
Sweet. Yeah, but do we need government to tell us that, yes, when you go into a building, it's an exit and an end, two ways to get in and out? I mean,
apparently, if there's a warehouse with only one exit, then...
I'm trying to imagine a warehouse with one door that goes in and out. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Very, very strange. So let's move from people getting arrested for smoking the cannabis, or in this case, possibly just possessing it, or maybe trying to sell it or give it to somebody.
Jeez.
Well, I do want to point out a couple of things.
Okay.
Because of this, I encourage everyone that's listening to know the marijuana laws in your state and to get involved. Even if you can't do much, people like Daryl, we go to the state house and stuff. I know somebody asked earlier who inspires you. Well, everybody that does anything good inspires me. Essentially, I can't really just limit it to the people I named earlier because there's so many people that donate every month just so this show exists.
Sure.
They're just as important as Daryl is. You know what I mean? So everyone plays a role. And in things like this, we can stop this from happening if we can all organize and focus and do maybe just a little bit more than what we're doing today.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so if you can't be at a state house lobbying, well, then donate to someone like Daryl who started Liberty Lobby LLC.
Right.
You can
They'll
fund
lobby for
him. You can donate to his lobbying group so that he can, do more things, hire more people, or get more people down there at the state house working to overturn the marijuana laws here in New Hampshire, for example. And there's people like that in your states that you can donate to if you can't physically be there.
And you can find out more about what I do at libertylobby.info.
Plug it.
Well, only because you mentioned it.
No, I know.
Right, you plugged
though.
it.
But this is how we change and prevent stuff like this from happening.
People have to get active.
Yeah.
Yes. And since you did mention it, I'll go ahead and throw out a success that we had recently where I had testified on a electric grill proposal to where right now the state fire...
I love this one. I love
Daryl
this.
Perry making the world a better place.
The state fire chief guy has construed that an electric grill on your porch or patio or deck is considered an open flame in accordance with the fire code.
Now, before you people out there in other parts of the country laugh at New Hampshire for having a law that has been interpreted as banning electric grills on your porch, look at your own laws first, because I guarantee you every state out there has one that's just as ludicrous,
right,
and likely more so.
The word electric grill does not appear in the current regulation that the fire chief interpreted to say that electric grills are an open flame. So there was a bill to specifically state that electric grills used in certain forms are not considered open flames. And so I testified saying, wait a second, you're the intent here is to remove regulations, but you're putting in all of these new regulations saying that you can't have the extension cord run through a door or a window, but yet if you are running a circular saw, then you can run the extension cord through whatever you want to.
Or a fan or a boom box, or you know what I mean?
If you
so
have
ridiculous.
the George Foreman grill in your kitchen, there's no regulation, but you take it onto the porch and suddenly you've got all of these regulations. And I said, your bill is too long. It should stop after saying is not an open flame in accordance with the fire code.
Right.
And there was another senator, one not on the committee. Well, first, let me say the committee unanimously approved an amendment to cut the bill after, these are not open flame.
To do exactly what you recommended they do.
Yes.
This is somebody going to government and proposing a change and it actually occurring in the legislative process.
And another senator that was not on the committee noticed something that basically would have given Underwriters Laboratory a monopoly on approving electric grills in the state. And he offered up a floor amendment to say that is an electric grill that is certified by a nationally recognized certification entity such as Underwriters Laboratory. So that then any of these, and apparently there are 6. I'm only familiar with Underwriters Laboratory, but I do know that, on the electronic stuff, there's a bunch of other little logos.
Right.
I just don't know the name. So, completely different senator was like, hey, wait a second. We don't want to give them a monopoly. So wound up doing even above and beyond what I expected them to do or what I even asked them to do.
And that should be your first clue that senator is not getting any campaign money from that organization.
Correct.
When they say, we shouldn't grant them a monopoly. Interesting.
Yeah. So here in the closing, we've got about a minute and a half left. But no, there's something that, Chris, you had thrown in the show notes that is very, very interesting to where you often hear, these quote-unquote millennials saying, we need to fight for 15.
Okay.
Somebody did a survey, asked these people, hey, here's a job. What would you take it for?
Okay, so this is a poll from the National Association of Home Builders who asked young Americans 18 to 25, which pretty much is your millennials, how much would you take a career in the construction trade? So we're talking carpenters, plumbers, drywall guys, stuff like that. Here are the results, and we hate to stereotype, but here we go. Percentage of respondents who reported no or little chance they would consider a career in the construction trades if they were paid $40,000, 7% said they would.
So $40,000, that's not too shabby. That's definitely more than $15 an hour.
How about if I offered them $50,000 a year?
All right, a little bit.
You'd
might
guess
get
a little
few
more.
People.
Wrong, 7%. In the end, only 21% they would take a construction job if it paid $100,000 a year or more. 21%, and 43% said they wouldn't consider it at any level of compensation.
We need a living wage.
My peers disappoint me.
We need a living wage. We just don't want manual labor.
Exactly.
Is basically the moral there. This is Free Talk Live, always online at freetalklive.com. Free Press Publications is an independent, alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website, fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper, FPP News, at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.